Opa, let's go. Thank you, Veggie Bow for the sub. Thank you. Let's fucking go. Starting in a little bit.
Expression is clean if you know it. Soak in the seedling to grow it. Say what you mean if you flow it. State your whole being, don't mow it. Motives, cloud vision, and cause precision to malfunction. Ambition, collisions, affect decisions at a junction. Heads get the bouncing, they hear it, invoking their spirit, and most of them fear it, and habits the lyric. So cheer it, come again, keeping this one moving. Grooving with this rhythm till it's stopping, locking to it.
Hello, chat. Welcome back to this wonderful Saturday, wonderful weekend. My day 15 of dry February. It's been a fucking nightmare. Thank you, Veggie Bao, for the 6-month sub at tier 1. That is very fucking based of you. Welcome to a guest episode. Today we'll be having Aaron, who just released part 1 of their very interesting docu-series on one of the least reported acts of massive ethnic cleansing and murder and genocide in the world. I honestly, I have to admit, for example, I did not know absolutely anything about it before I talked to Aaron, and I look forward to learning more about it together with you as we watch it live, just as it got released together with him in, I believe, around 20 minutes. Thank you, Laubfrau, for the 3-month streak. You beautiful. Thank you very, very much. The jib today is very, very classic Balkan. I think I haven't worn this particular tracksuit. Almost all of mine are red and black, so you might think they're the same, but I have a few. Oh, etc. I'm not much of a fucking Adidas or Nike guy. It's usually like other brands. I feel like Yugo is becoming more like Hassan every day. Me, more like Hassan? No, Hassan is becoming more like me every day, bro. I don't copy anybody. Everybody copies me. Don't you know? The world evolves around you once you start streaming. Hugo, can you play this Yiddish anti-fascist song for us? Putting it on the playlist. When DJ Yugopnik returns to the fold, I will do my best to do so. Yeah, that's the plan for today. It's going to be a 2-hour stream. I need to go to a very close friend's birthday afterwards. I will already be like an hour and a half late. That's on them, not on me. I did not know exactly when it's going to start. But yes, we will be talking about the Tamil genocide together with Aaron, who will join us a little bit later. Small updates about myself. It's fucking dry February. I fucking hate it at this point. 15 days in. Yesterday we had a very romantic night with the girlfriend. I do a very classic toxic masculinity thing where I basically don't cook for 364 days of the year, and then I cook for her on Valentine's Day. That's basically the whole thing. Fucking incredible shit, right? Like the preparation of one meal a year is made special due to the fact that no meals are prepared 364 days of the year. Incredible things. Okay, yes, I do indeed have a soundboard, and I will make you hate the stream because I will use it too fucking often. Hello, Hugo. I'm going to drink tonight. Ha, fuck you. Yeah, I'm going to a birthday party that I'm not going to be able to drink at. I'm going to go with a car like a fucking dirty American. It's fucking insane. Genuinely insane. Oh, Hugo, did you see the Balkan women attractive? Men are not because barbarism? Yes, I love that interaction. I loved that interaction. It was phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal. What was the post? The weirdest thing about the Balkans to me is that the average woman looks like she stepped out of the pages of a fairy tale, and the average guy is a mountain troll. There's something really weird going on in Balkan genetics, probably related to thousands of years of ceaseless warfare in which only the most brutal men survived, who then had to pick their women. My reply was, Westerners are so fucking weird. What kind of a fucking incel-ass brain spasm do you have to have in order to think like this? In order to analyze the genetic component of cis males and females of a country, and then compare the imbalance of attractiveness levels between them. Quite impressive. I've also this is just a continuation of classic Eastern barbarian hordes rhetoric. I mean, this is not only applied to Balkan men. This is very often applied to black men, especially from certain parts of Africa. This is massively applied to Central Asian men, etc., etc. And when they are not defined as these troll-like barbarians, they're defined as weak and meek and need to have their women, quote unquote, taken away from them, the way we, for example, have rhetoric about Japanese women and Japanese men, right? Thank you very much, Romko. Hello, number one threat to the rules-based world order. Hello, my friend. Let's fucking go. Good to see you, Romko. Good to see you as always. Balkan women are selectively breeding men who have the Shrek build, the perfect form. Absolutely, dude. Nah, these dudes will constantly complain about how women are fucked up for not choosing trademark real men. But then they will see countries in which their weird fantasy is coming to fruition, and they will also get pissed off at that. So these incel-brained fucking animals, they will get pissed off if any woman dates anyone except them. They are the only acceptable breeding material. If you are too what they would define as meek and weak, then you don't deserve your woman, and vice versa. If you are a ooga booga barbarian troll caveman from the east, then you also do not deserve your woman. Only I deserve your woman. All women, please date me. I am the most dateable man of all time. Only me. Me very special. Everybody else very bad. Okay. Fetishism with Slavic Balkan women needs to be stopped. They either see them as meat or Soviet spies. This is obviously it's beautiful when people from vastly different cultures intermingle and create families. But when it comes to fetishization of the other, it is very, very prevalent when it comes to the so-called Western gaze and Orientalization in general. I'm not saying that every white dude that falls in love with a woman that comes from somewhere east of Berlin is necessarily fetishizing them. I do not believe that at all. But a lot of them, unfortunately, do. A lot of them do. There's normal dudes that meet someone who happens to be of a particular ethnicity that's not close to theirs, and they fall in love and they have a lovely family. That's called not being a bigoted piece of shit and, fucking living it up. But the others, they hide this thing where they want to interact with other people only because they're different. It's like being a chaser, but applied to women of different ethnicities. And then they get very confused because usually they start dating them because of very specific hardcore stereotypes, usually related to some sort of idea of them being incredibly submissive. Then they start dating them and they realize that the majority of that stereotype was absolute bullshit. And then they're like, what the fuck? All these bitches are whores as well. All women are bitches. Like, it doesn't matter what part of the world they come from. Type of shit. Hey, now, it's not my fault that Balkaners and Hispanics mesh so well. We are the same, my friend. When I was younger, I remember a TV show on literally television saying that Eastern Europe and Russia had a shortage of men. Due to wars, mind you. And if you go there, you'll have easy dating because it's 10 to 1 women to men there. Like, that's wild shit to say. Yeah, it's, dude. They're saying similar shit to China, about China, because of the one-child policy and stuff. Think Balkan women submissive when Balkan women can break a spine with one hand. Absolutely, dude. Like, as I said earlier, the incel constantly finds himself in the middle ground between complaining about women dating guys that are too soft and also complaining about women dating guys that are too tough. Because at the end of the day, these men do not have some sort of advanced analytical perspective on why a woman bad. They simply want all women to date them, right? That's it. As long as that woman is from particular ethnic category that they deem deserves to breed with them. Hugo, I wonder how you feel now that we're waiting for the documentary. Like, how do you feel about situations that feel like waiting rooms? I hate waiting rooms. Oh, by the way, I went to give blood yesterday to see what, like, my picture is, like, what my health is, and I'm as healthy as a fucking ox. I'm pretty good. I got low positive cholesterol, which means I need to eat more, like, fucking olive oil and shit, and, like, I ain't eating fucking avocados, bro. Like, an avocado, like, I don't eat food that cannot grow in the part of the world where I was born at. That is a small conspiracy that I, to an extent, subscribe to. Like, eat the way your ancestors have eaten because, like, that's the most what your body is used to because you fucking consumed it for, like, 1,000 years and passed it down. Lowest chances of allergic reaction. Obviously, I'll experiment and eat something, wacky that never existed in the Balkans, but I will mostly focus on the other shit. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Treba više kajmak da jedeš. Does kajmak have positive cholesterol? I like, up until yesterday, I didn't know positive cholesterol was a thing. Yeah, potatoes are a great gotcha, like, unironically. But I think we've been eating potatoes for like 5 centuries now, so potatoes are kind of integrated into the European diet. It's also better for the planet for the most part. That as well, yeah. Like, I'm very privileged that I basically have these 4 jobs. I have First Thought, I have the D program, I have the Yugopnik channel, I have this, so I have an okay income. Which literally allows me to eat local. Like, I I go to fucking farmers markets and I buy all my fucking tomatoes. My tomatoes are sweeter than fucking than apples. It's crazy. It's fucking crazy. It's a great privilege to have. Thoughts on Honor? I haven't watched it yet. Is it good? I don't know. I hear all the crazy accents and it's like a story about Russians in America, and I immediately become less interested because it's like because it's diaspora pilled. That's why it is very strange. People that are living in their home countries, or like, no, actually everybody, especially immigrants and people that still live in their home countries, if the countries are places that have lots of immigrants, like. It's always kind of relatively cringe to see the diaspora represent, I don't know, us while they're like not here. It's fucking strange. It's confusing. As someone working in a lab of a communal healthcare center in Balkan countryside, I had pretty unique interaction with people of my age. People don't cuck out and talk about how men and women relationships go. Absolutely, yeah. There's normal people everywhere. But yes, some mandatory diaspora hatred. In 5 minutes, we'll be starting the stream with Aaron, and we will be watching his documentary live. Let me put the documentary in the pin. Interesting times here on YugopnikTwitch. Interesting times indeed. We finally have a guest. Is that not incredible? I have no idea how we're going to watch it in parallel. I genuinely do not have any idea. What? No, I'm shocked that... No, not that. God damn it. Do not pin that to Hugo, you stupid little monkey boy. There you go. Like this. Okay. No way. Watch Aaron's doc here. Okay, just like this. Fantastic things are happening in China. There you go. Lovely. I think I pinned the right thing. I did. Discord screen share? Yeah, that won't work. It's too laggy. He knows his documentary in and out, so I'll basically watch it with you and ask him questions. That's a link to your Twitch. Dude, I hate to, like, this is so dumb. Jesus Christ. I've interviewed over 150 people. It's never been this fucking complicated. Fucking Twitch, man. I swear to God. Link to Aaron's doc. Okay, there you go. So fucking... Ooh, there it is. Fantastic. Watch together if it's a YouTube link. Watch together. Oh, yeah, I saw that shit. No, it's got ads everywhere. It's fucking... I can't, like, full screen it. It's much more complicated when it's... Dude, it keeps posting my link, man. I can't copy any other link, dude. I'm so fucking tired, man. Jesus Christ. Today I worked on the first thought for like 6 hours straight.
Wonderful, a new child soldier, subscriber.
There you go, it's pinned. Thank you very much, Lily and So, for the 10 months, you fucking legend. Thank you so much. That is very, very kind of you. Very, very, very kind of you. Okay. First Thought is back. It's never gone away. It just takes a while when you have $0 worth of a budget to make complex and formal documentaries. Yeah. Just notice in the program videos you use camera is mirrored. Yes, I mirror the camera because it looks better. This room is a very nice room. It's designed to be an office. It used to be a kitchen with the previous owners. Dentists used to own this apartment. And when it's mirrored, it looks much better because like when you enter it, it looks very nice. But when you're recording it backwards, it looks fucking strange unless it's mirrored. When it's mirrored, I think it's decent. Yeah. You can see the road text is mirrored. Yes, that's how you can catch it here and here. Here you have like the program sticker as well that you can see is mirrored as well. Mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all? Of course it's Yugopnik. He's very fair to everyone. I'm the fairest little boy. Fairest little boy. Okay, let's invite... let's invite our guest. For me, the program one looks better. That's strange. Well, personal taste. And also your Kubashi, you hate on everything, which is why I love you. Isn't that just Cyrillic? Yeah, Cyrillic is Latin in reverse. Yes, indeed. Just print the stickers backwards to confuse everyone further. Hey, Hugo, I thought of staying here in the U.S., but then I thought, wouldn't it be better to go back to Iraq and the communist movement there? There's not much of a communist movement there. Like, Iraq desperately needs a new and better, and if I will find a struggle for liberation and freedom, then I do it to liberate my own people. Yeah, man, if you can afford to go back, and if you think you can have a decent life back home, fucking do it. Leave the States. Everybody should leave the States. Fuck living in the States. I bought some deprogram merch a while back, and the map hoodie is very warm and comfy. Thank you. That's kind of you. The merch is kind of nice. Okay, this is basically my setup. This is basically my setup for the stream, okay? This is how we're going to do it. Aaron is going to pop up there where my beautiful icon is. I'm going to remove this one now, you see? Aaron's going to pop in there, and then we're going to stream. Tell JT to hurry the fuck up and move. Yeah. I need a mouse shirt playing table tennis. Yeah, that's probably like you can get a discount through Patreon. Keen single-handedly holding up the Iraqi communist movement. Yes. What Iraqi communist movement is a better question. There's one man, and he's a levitating Lenin head. He is the entirety of the Iraqi communist movement. That is how it indeed works. Cyrillic is quick to learn if you know Greek letters. Cyrillic is very quick to learn in general if you know Latin letters. It's not fucking Chinese or Japanese or Korean. I'm never learning that shit. That shit's impossible. Yo! Can you hear me? Aaron? Sir?
Hey, can you hear me? 1 second.
Yes.
I can't hear you.
Yes, I can hear you perfectly. Surely I can hear you really well.
What? Use your microphone, yes.
Yes, you can hear me, right?
Hello?
Hello?
I can't hear you. I don't know how to do this.
You cannot hear me? Wait,
1 second.
Let me see.
Wait,
1 second. 1 second. I'll fix it. And words. You should hear me now. Hey.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
Phenomenal. We are tech kings. Literally, dude. You have no idea how complicated it felt to make this. Without Toasty, the fucking OG mod of mine, like, I would not have been able to do this. King Max. How you doing, man? You can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm doing good. I'm a bit groggy this morning, but I'll make it.
Same. Insanely fucking groggy.
I'm still dealing with jet lag. That's the reason.
Ah, shit. Where did you fly in from?
I went to India for my cousin's wedding, and I came back.
Oh, how was that? How was the wedding?
It was good. The wedding was really good. It was pretty good. It was only 2 days, right? But we basically took a train to my mom's village, to my mom's like hometown. Basically, it's not a village; it's a town. So I basically took a train immediately. I was there for about a week, and I flew back into the U.S. And it's a 9. So I'm on the East Coast. I'm in D.C., right?
Yeah.
I'm in D.C., so it's like a 9.5 hour time difference.
Dude. Fuck.
Actually, no. Now it's 10.5 hour time difference.
Fuck.
And on top of that, like.
And you did it twice in a week. That messes you up even harder.
Yeah, when I was there, like it worked to my advantage because I basically worked. I have a day job, so I worked American hours, like East Coast hours.
Yeah.
It worked to my advantage because I worked in India on East Coast hours, but then like now that I'm back, it's like I'm struggling to wake up on time. So.
Oh, I completely feel you. I feel you. Are you gonna turn on a cam or no?
Let me see if I can because I'm already streaming, right?
Yeah.
Set up virtual camera. Okay, let me set up my virtual camera.
Just because I have you on the screen and you can. Yeah.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, that's probably better. If you have me up on the screen, that's probably way better.
I have you through this thing, so I do not have your face on it.
Let me pull up your stream right quick.
Because if I take you from your stream, then the audio is going to lag, etc., etc. Think if like on this thing that's like a co-stream, that's currently open, if you just click turn camera on, it's going to turn the camera on, and it will not fuck with your stream or what you are casting to my stream. And it's all going to be perfectly live. I don't know how I look like on your stream. I can turn my camera on if you're using the same thing on your stream. Like,
pop out. You got. Let me see. Because I'm not logged on here. That's the thing. It can only be. It only supports Chrome and Firefox for now. What the fuck is going on here?
Twitch.
Okay, I don't know what's going on here. I'm using Edge for my stream, so I don't know how to get this working. USB video device. Let me see if this works. Allow. Camera in use elsewhere. You may need to select or set up a virtual camera. Oh fuck. Okay. Well. Okay. I'll do this. I'll deactivate my camera here. Yeah. I'll deactivate my camera here.
Whatever works for you. Yeah. I mean, it would just look nicer if you're. Yeah. If you pop up. Let me see how.
Yeah. I'll do it. I'll deactivate this new camera. I'll deactivate this. Okay. And then what I will do is I'll switch. Okay. I'll switch this with this. Yeah, gotcha.
In the meanwhile, I'll read out 200 bits. First time on stream. Take some bucks to counter the propaganda machine. Missed the deprogram monthly lives for Aaron. Opinions on the Naxalite movement versus CPI. Aaron will answer later. First, we'll watch the documentary. But everybody who wants to become a sub,
I'm probably not going to answer anything on India, to be honest.
Yeah.
Wonderful, a new child soldier.
I'm probably not going to, because this is not like. This is the thing that I get a lot. They like, I'll talk about Sri Lanka, and then people will ask me questions about India, and I'm like, dude, they're different countries, man. Like,
yeah.
Turn camera on. Okay, USB video device. Here we go. Copy the browser URL. Any session. I don't know what this means. A copy.
My camera disappeared. I love this.
Advanced customization. I don't know what this is. Okay. Next. Okay, I'll stick a browser source in here. I don't know what this is.
There we go. Thank you, Kubashi, for the 9 months.
Oh, I can do that. Oh, that's awesome. Wait a minute. Okay, I can just stick it on here. Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. I can just stick it here.
Yeah, you
can. Wait, I didn't know you could do this.
You can copy this as a browser thing, and then like that way you will be able to show me to your chat, and I can show you to my chat as we talk quite literally live. There you go. Now you're up in my stream. That's perfect. And if you do the same and like not like you remove not include my camera. Okay, let me try and turn myself on for yours, but I think it's very strange because it kills the other. Yeah, it kills the other one. It's so badly made.
I mean, we're doing the best we can. If not, we can always just go to Discord and just go from there. Okay, yeah. Hold on. I have your thing pulled up. Let me see. Why is it giving me this? Okay, I want to see your actual stream, not the mobile version of this nonsense.
Okay, 1 second. I think I figured it out.
Oh, wait. Okay,
now I have you. Okay, now we're both good. Okay, I have both.
Wait, can I do this? Can I also do this for my thing? Show your... Copy your camera slot link. Oh, I can do this. Okay, let's do this. Okay. Yeah. Okay, now.
Thank you for your patience, chat. Chat looking at two dudes trying to do technical support. Fucking classic.
Yeah.
Which is ironic. A lot of Balkan people and a lot of Sri Lankan people do technical support. So now we're uniting our technical.
Oh, I mean Indians
powers.
As well.
Oh, like, Indians are holy fucking shit, bro. That's
Indians as well. Like. Okay, I don't know why the fuck this is.
I think there's literal fucking multi billionaires that just completely made borderline trillions of dollars, specifically in India, from customer support, from like mass renting out people for pennies on the dollar to pick up the phone and help Jessica out in the fucking suburbia of Wisconsin with her printers. Incredible business model. Thank you, Kubashi, and thank you, Migmag Moog, for the subs.
Okay, let me see if I can't do this. One more thing. Okay, I don't know why this is not working. What the fuck? I fucking swear. I just copied this slots link. What the hell's going on here? Okay, control audio via OBS. Okay, I don't know what my slot isn't working on my stream. I don't know what's going on. Okay, this is just garbage.
Yeah, don't worry about it. You don't have to show me.
Yeah, whatever. It's fine.
I look like a weird ass masked guy, anyways. You don't have to turn it on. Just you gotta figure out how. Like, no, you know your documentary really well. So as I'm watching it, I'll ask questions. We'll watch live with chat. So let me just do a quick little introduction. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you very much, Aaron, for joining the stream.
Oh, it's Arun.
What?
Arun.
Okay, Arun. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Arun, for joining the stream. Today we'll be watching Arun's documentary that just came out quite literally 6-7 hours ago. Correct me if I'm wrong. You have the pinned link to the documentary up in chat. I strongly suggest you watch it. I will be going into it completely blind. It covers one of the least talked about acts of genocide pretty much in history. I have to admit that I personally knew absolutely nothing about it. I had never even heard of it before Toasty pretty much introduced me to Arun's work and to what he's currently been working on. So let's do a small watch party. Watch it, try to learn, and ask as many questions to this brilliant comrade that we have on today, so that we can expand our knowledge and potentially, as always, in my opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, with these sorts of situations, try to learn as most out of it so that shit fucking never repeats again. Okay?
Sure, let's go for it.
Thank you for coming on. Before we start, how you doing?
As always, thank
how
you for having me.
So the jet lag has hit. One question about, so you went to an Indian wedding. Do you guys drink on Indian weddings, or it's more of a eating thing?
It depends on a lot of factors, like your caste background. It depends on like how religious you want to make it or whatever. So depends on your religion, depends on your caste. So when I say Indian, like Indian weddings are not like a monolith by any stretch of the measure.
Of course, it's a huge country, yeah.
Yeah, so specifically, I went to a very specific kind of Tamil wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because we're all yeah. It depends on what part of India you're from. I went to Tamil Nadu, which is where I'm from. My family's all from there.
Cool. Okay. Well, let's start with the documentary, and we'll jump in with questions. Chatters,
Sure.
If you have questions directed at Arun, please do send them in. If you send them in with bits, the bits are split between the two of us because it's a co-stream. There's a much higher chance that we see it. I'm not just saying this is, I want to make as much money out of this as possible. I quite literally will be watching the documentary, talking to our guest, and looking at chat. So the chances really are bigger for you to quite literally explode on my screen in order for me to be able to check it out. Okay, 1 second. The cameras are literally going completely fucking insane on my screen. Can't believe that Twitch does not have a more practical system for this. There we go. Okay, let's start. The video is titled "Grief-Stricken." The documentary is titled "Grief-Stricken Wins."
So I want to do a quick.
Go
So
on.
I want to do a quick, thing about the name. So the name "Grief-Stricken Wins" is actually from. It's sort of a mistranslation of a Tamil poem called "Kattikavanda Sogam," which means. I should probably turn off alerts. Actually, let me turn off my alerts so that because this is a very serious topic. There you go. Control audio via Discord. There, via OBS. There you go. Boom. Okay. So yeah. So it's a mistranslation of Katrikavan Sogam, which means the grief or the deep sadness that has hit the winds. And the poem is about. Long story short, it's about a village that was basically it's set up as this metaphor for the crimes that the Sri Lankan state has been committing against the Tamils for like 80 years at this point. 80, 90 years at this point. So that's where the name comes from. It actually is the name of a Tamil poem by Vivaratnam.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Okay.
אני אומר שנועדו להיות נתיבי חדירה לישראל, אלא גם את אלו שנועדו להיות מקומות מסתור למחבלים. אני אומר לראשי הטרור,
But remember that one day the whole country will look up to you. The final battle for our people will be fought in the deserts of Negev. You are men and women who will carry this country's destiny on your shoulders. Those who are attempting to divide this country will have to reckon with you. The country may forget you for a few years, but one day, very soon, they will look up to you as the last bastion of the Jews. Benjamin Netanyahu.
אתם לא יכולים להתחבא.
שמענו השבוע בתקשורת כל מיני הדלפות ותדרוכים עם מספרים מופרזים.
I'm not worried about the opinion of the Arabs now. Now we cannot think of them, not about their lives or their opinion about us. The more you put pressure in Gaza, the happier our people will be here. Really, if I starve the Arabs, our people will be happy. The classic parallel between the destruction of the parasite and the proliferation of a beautiful, green, luscious life once that one main problem is removed. I'm guessing there are going to be like crazy parallels in the documentary between the two genocides, I'm guessing, which would be...
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the whole point of this intro, but you'll see what I mean in a second.
והזויים של מה שישראל...
Massacres, bombing of hospitals, deprivation of aid, calling civilians terrorists and terrorists civilians, human shields, bombing safe zones, assassinating leaders, and far more. Death and destruction inundate the atmosphere, and no one knows when the army will claim your life. Every second there's a chance that a bomb could drop, and within seconds, your mom, dad, uncle, aunt, sibling, child, and your own life could be robbed from you. Welcome to the Pearl of the Indian Ocean, Sri Lanka, in the year 2009.
את העמידה התקיפה.
වටර ස්වල්පයක් කියන්ට ලැබීම මං ලොකු වාසනාවක් කියා.
What the fuck? But remember that one day the whole country will look up to you. The final battle for the Sinhala, our people will be fought in the plains of Padavia. You are men and women who will carry the island's destiny on your shoulders. Those who are attempting to divide this country will have to reckon with you. The country may forget you for a few years, but one day, very soon, they will look up to you as the last bastion of the, probably mispronouncing the Sinhala. Wow!
Sinhala.
Yes!
Sinhala.
Holy shit! Holy fuck! Yeah, man, dude.
Okay, so just to clear any confusion, Benjamin Netanyahu and Itamar Ben-Gvir did not say that. They did not say anything remotely. They did. I mean, they've said many things similar to this, but they did not use this exact phrasing.
Okay.
This actually comes from. They didn't actually use this exact phrasing, but the point is, they very well could have, and they've said stuff very similar to this.
They have, yes. No, the point is made brilliantly. Completely get you.
אבל עדיין עסקה מופקרת.
Mass murder, bombing of hospitals,
deprivation of aid, calling civilians terrorists, and terrorists civilians. The situation is bleak to say the least, but the world ahead will no longer be the same, and we can be more than sure that the same horrors will not repeat. That's what the Tamils experiencing Sri Lanka's crimes against humanity had hoped 15 years prior. But now, amidst the atrocities in Gaza, they see the same acts repeating. This may surprise you, but every tactic being used in Gaza right now
16
was
years
used
ago
in
at
Sri
this
Lanka.
point. That's the other thing. 16 years ago at this point.
Studied by the world and employed elsewhere. Sri Lanka gives us an idea of what might happen next in Palestine, as the atrocities and cultural erasure against the Tamil people in Sri Lanka continue to occur unabated. No lessons learned, no reconciliation. Atrocities against the Tamils continue unabashed, whether it be the seizing of land by the army, the attempts at culturally erasing Tamil heritage by claiming Hindu temples and Christian churches as Buddhist land, the ethnocratic Sri Lankan state forcibly disappearing Tamils in white vans never to be seen again, the systemic violence the Sri Lankan state and the army inflict upon the Tamils endures.
Okay, so it is an active process that is still continuing. The Tamil people have not been completely wiped off the face of the earth by the Sri Lankan government. That is the correct assumption, right?
Yes. So the funny thing is, there's actually an ongoing issue right now as we speak that is happening. And so I want to be clear. The term that you should be using for the occupied territory is not Sri Lanka. It's Elam. Elam. E-E-L-A-M. That's the
Okay.
term that you should be using.
Okay.
The reason I say Sri Lanka here is because people don't know what Elam is to begin with. And unlike Palestine, the difference between Palestine and Elam is that the island as a whole has been called Elam for a long time, but the concept of a separate Elam didn't really come about until after the British gave, as you'll see, the Sinhalese nationalists all the power, basically. So it came about much later on than originally. So the reason is that so when you think Tamils, you think Elam. When you think of Tamils, you should be like saying Elam. That's basically the concept. So Palestinians, Tamil Elam, basically. Or when you think of Tamils, you think Elam, basically.
Understood.
Not so long ago, in the year 2009, when America was inaugurating and celebrating its first black president, Barack Obama, on the other side of the world, in Sri Lanka, the same war crimes you're now seeing in Gaza was taking place.
The UN Special Panel report published this April found that government heavy artillery was constantly retargeted on the so-called no-fire zones.
But in order to understand how we got to the bombings of hospitals and schools
Pause.
and numerous
The
other
thing I
war
wanted to
crimes
say
that
was
took
There's
place,
an active issue of land grabs going on right now. So the Sri Lankan government is actually doing land grabs as we speak. They're basically illegally constructing a Buddhist vihara, right, in the middle of Jaffna. They've been constantly trying to build a Buddhist vihara in the middle of Jaffna right now, which is like the heart of, which is like 90% Tamil, basically. It's a very Tamil dominated region. It's like the northern tip, it's the northern peninsula of the island. And they're basically trying to illegally construct a Buddhist structure there. So that's a demonstration of, and also there's reconciliation that hasn't been carried out or anything like that. But the most important thing is that the Sri Lankan government is still engaging in colonization. The Mahawali program that I'll mention later in this video that started in the 80s, that started in the 70s and 80s, that still exists. It's still going on right now. That hasn't stopped.
Well, okay.
So none of this has stopped.
So
it's still going on. It's just that the genocide has now become buried and now it's being slowed.
Yeah. And they use like religious buildings in order to they, for example, construct it in a particular area, and they say how do they do land grabs using temples if
So so they grab the land and then build the temples. So the land is already illegally stolen by either illegally or legally stolen by the Sri Lankan government. So the land is already taken by the Sri Lankan government, and the Buddhist vihara that they're constructing is specifically to prevent any it's to prevent the take back of that land, basically.
Yeah, we have similar parallels of what's been done in my regions. Yeah, and especially when it's a religious, let's call it institution that enters the conversation to an extent in between, even though they pretty much are serving the purpose of whatever ethnic group or government structure that is building them. Once they're built, any sort of attempt to remove them will be seen as a act of I don't know, anti-religious fervor, and can be utilized to then throw violence on whatever group is trying to move the colonizer away from their territory, because then they end up looking like the ones that are being the aggressors, even though you quite literally walked into their backyard and you built a fucking building that nobody wanted to see there. So yeah.
So two things I want to address immediately in your chat. One, so a lot of people are saying the new Marxist-Leninist government. So the current president of Sri Lanka.
What the fuck?
So I'll explain what I mean. So I don't explain it here in this part because this isn't really when the JVP becomes prominent. But the current president of Sri Lanka is Anurakumar Dissanayake. And he is the leader of a coalition, which is itself basically run by called the NPP. And that coalition, the NPP, the National People's Power, is controlled by the JVP. The JVP is Sri Lanka's largest communist party. Now, the reason I say communist, the reason I say this is the reason I'm elaborating on this is because the JVP has only, in its entire history, it has only ever consistently sided with fascists.
Classic.
It has, and they brag about it.
Yeah.
One of the members of their central committee, Katie Lalkantha, has literally gone. There's a speech of him going to a bunch of veterans, quote unquote, a bunch of former Sri Lankan soldiers who served in this war, right, who fought in this war against the Tigers, right, and bragging about how they and Jatika Hela Urumaya, who are open Nazis, by the way, were the only ones strong enough to build an ideology that the soldiers could implement against the LTTE. And basically, he's bragging about the JVP being one of the two parties to openly advocate for the use of heavy weapons.
Wow. Yeah.
So
the parallels are crazy.
They have only ever consistently worked with Nazis, and there's also a straight up murder in the eastern part of the island, called the Potuville massacre, in which the JHU, the Nazi party, are consistently they're implicated in that massacre of Muslims. So the JVP, the guys that are running the country, are not good guys. They're also bad. And also, it's not just limited to the JVP, because the Communist Party of Sri Lanka, the CPSL, is also in a coalition with straight Nazis. So the reason for this is the communist movement in Sri Lanka has always been dominated by Sinhalese.
That are what?
It's always
very
been dominated by
ethnocentric.
Sinhalese.
A little bit of class consciousness, but it's only allowed for our people, and everybody else needs
literally
to leave
they've
or die.
called so they've called people like the Malayaga Tamils, which again we'll get to here. They have called basically who are like they were brought into the country, they were brought into the highlands by the British as indentured servants. So as far as class position is concerned, the Malayaga Tamils are the most oppressed because they are effectively indentured servants, right? And they were made stateless for a number of years, for a handful of years, right? And But the JVP's response to that was these guys, these very oppressed like Tamils, they are oppressed on their class position. They're oppressed by their ethnicity as well, right? By virtue of their ethnicity as well. They are agents of India. And we should never work with them, and we should try and kick them out of the country.
Understood. I mean, chat
So
is
that's
hitting the nail on the board.
communism
Yeah, like labor, like the parallels with labor Zionists, or if you want to go to the 90s in my region, like the parallels are everywhere. Like you had once the Yugoslav Communist Party fell apart, you had the Serbian Socialist Party, which ended up being the most fucking unhinged right-wing genocidal group, arguably, at least in the Serbian Republic, of the ensuing so-called Yugoslav wars afterwards. And the fact that they have fucking socialist in their name, or that they like to, you know, whip out a red book and show it around from time to time, is absolute bullshit when they want to engage in like active fucking ethnic cleansing and colonization. You should, you know, immediately exit chat when, as they say, when somebody is quite literally LARPing socialism and yet does not support the most basic ideas of either internationalism or anti-colonialism, depending on the perspective you give it. But yeah, thank you. This is very good. Yeah. Yeah,
the labor Zionist, you know, the labor Zionist is a very good comparison. I think that's the best way of describing what the communist movement in Sri Lanka is. I think it's a very good comparison.
Very good.
I think people bring the ACP and bring like Jackson Stinkle Dinkle and Haas and whatnot. I think my biggest issue with that comparison is that no one takes those guys seriously. Like no one, like most people, as far as I know, they don't take those idiots seriously.
Yeah,
but labor Zionists are like a legit established political party. And unfortunately, most communists, if you ask them their opinions on Sri Lanka, they'll just spout JVP talking points. The only ones that like push back on the JVP are Trotskyists. Because again, JVP they were originally an offshoot of Maoists that were dissatisfied with the Trotskyists in Sri Lanka. Who are actually, ironically, the most successful Trotskyists in existence. No, like the Trotskyists in Sri Lanka are actually the least bad communist party, but even then, like they have issues.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm getting into the weeds here. Let's just watch the documentary.
Too many details too early. Let's continue.
Yeah, let's watch it. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
We first have to understand how we got there, and that requires us to understand Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has 4 major ethnic groups. The Sinhalese, the
By the way, if you are in chat and you're watching this through the stream and you have not gone to the pin link and liked the video and subscribed, go fuck yourself. And I don't love you.
Also,
okay? Thank you. Yeah.
Also, one other thing. So I don't have Twitch chat pulled up, so I don't have the combined chat. So if you guys want to ask, I'm like basically looking through the window through your stream to see your chat. If you guys want to, if anyone in Yugopnik's chat wants to ask me a question, come to my chat and ask it.
That's a great idea.
Because absolutely. I'm not going to be able to see your chat, unfortunately.
That absolutely makes sense.
I'm just like seeing it through your stream.
Yeah. You have the @ in the title. Go to the stream as well. Absolutely. And keep in mind, any bits that come in go in between us, and that will allow us to see a question as well.
Elam Tamils, the Muslims, and the Hill or Malayaga Tamils.
Okay, so the Sinhalese, the Elam Tamils, the Muslims, and the
Malayaga Tamils.
Okay, and the darker red is okay. Understood. It's interesting just how cut off the Tamils are from each other. Probably intentional to an extent.
No, so it's not. It's a bit of it. So the map is a bit misleading here. So Tamils actually, so on the eastern portions, we did the best we could with the map here, but the Tamils basically, the Elam Tamils go from, like everywhere that is a green marker is also where Elam Tamils live.
Okay.
But the reason that they're green is that those districts now, so the upper right district is Trincomalee district, the lower right district is Ampara district, and the left district is Puttalam district, right? they are Muslim majority at this point,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're going to see why you're going to see why Trincomalee in particular is now, Trincomalee district in particular is Muslim majority.
And
You're gonna see
Tamils
why.
and Tamils on average are of what religious denomination or whatever the English term is for it.
They're mostly Hindu. So they're specifically Shaivites, which is now considered to be Hindus, right?
Okay.
So they're mostly Shaivites, but they have a minority of Christians.
Okay, understood.
The Sinhalese comprise the majority of the country at 75% of the population and are concentrated in the southwest and central parts of the country. Their origins are what is now eastern India and Bangladesh. Religion-wise, the Sinhalese are overwhelmingly Theravada Buddhist, with a sizable Roman Catholic Christian minority. The Sinhala language is an Indo-Aryan language, making it cousins of North Indian languages such as Hindi, Bengali, and Punjabi, as well as distant cousins of European languages like English, Spanish, and French. The Tamils are an ethnic group that are native to both southern India and northeastern Sri Lanka. The Elam Tamils are the Tamils native to the northern and eastern coasts of Sri Lanka and have been there since antiquity. The Tamil language belongs to the independent Dravidian language family and is the Dravidian language with the longest written history, going back to at least 500 BC. The Elam Tamils are majority Shaivite Hindu, with a significant minority being Christian and a very tiny minority being Buddhist. The Malega or Hill Tamils are the descendants of...
So, correct me if I'm wrong, there is no direct link between ethnic identity and religious identity.
What do you mean by that?
Like, there are certain ethnicities all over the world. Like, I'll continue using Balkan examples where, like, you're a Bosniak, usually if you're Muslim, you're a Serb if you're Orthodox, you're a Croat if you're Catholic, and sure, there are Catholic and Muslim Serbs and Catholic and Orthodox Bosniaks and Orthodox and Muslim Croats. But when you ask not even nationalists, but like the majority of any of those three ethnic groups, what constitutes a person of this ethnicity, for usually, in my opinion, reactionary reasons, they will say, oh, a person of this particular religious belief. Like, you are not really a true Croat unless you're Catholic. Does that kind of, let's call it, vibe play at ethnic differences between the people, the different ethnic groups, or not really?
It does. So that mentality does exist, right? And hence why, I mean, it's most present in Sinhalese Buddhist nationalism, right? Yeah. And the Muslims are actually like, we'll get to the Muslims in a second, but Muslims are ethnically quite similar to the Tamils. Mm-hmm. Like, they're very similar to the Tamils. In fact, if you were to speak to a Muslim person and a Tamil person just in neutral clothing, and you were to speak to them in Tamil, there's almost no, like, you cannot tell the difference between them. And in fact, if you go to
parallels are crazy. I'm sorry for repeating that shit. Like, it's like I'm learning about the history of from the current state, not just the history of a place so far away from where I'm at, and yet like so many things re-click. That's why your documentary is so good, and the parallels with Israel, because these things like fucking repeat so much, and there's so much that can be learned from it. Sorry for interrupting you. I just wanted to reinstate it because it's always surprising. Please continue.
Yeah. So the thing is, like, the difference between the Tamils and Muslims is a very Ceylon / I mean, I oscillate between Ceylon, Elam, Sri Lanka, those names, because, like, Sri Lanka itself is a name used by the national, like, that was pushed for by the nationalists here, by the Sinhalese nationalists. But if you go to Tamil Nadu, which is like this landmass, like to the northwest of the island, right? The difference between Tamils and Muslims, like, there is no such thing as a separate Muslim ethnic group in Tamil Nadu. They don't exist. They're all Tamils and Muslims at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
the reason for the split here is for stuff that I don't have time to get into, right? Like that's a story for a different that's a story for a different video, right? But so to answer your question, yes, there are the Sinhalese Buddhist nationalism. The religion plays an incredibly important role in that. It's ethno-nationalism infused with hugely religious elements, right? And it is very similar to Zionism in that regard, right? And it's also very similar to Hindu nationalism in that regard, right? There's a huge in Hindu nationalism, it's basically ethnic/caste nationalism at its very core, infused with religious elements. Zionism, everyone knows. Here, it's an ethno-nationalist component. They've basically combined, like Bashna will talk about it, but they've combined the religious component and the ethnic component. That was done by the British, actually. So that's important. But there are lots of Tamils. There are lots of Tamils that say, Tamils, the Tamil religion is Shaivism. That's the main Tamil religion, and Christianity came much later, right? And the reason Christianity is able to exist in the Elam Tamil society is because they've basically syncretized Christianity with the already existing Shaivite religion, right? That's basically it. So what the phenomenon you're talking about does exist, but it is far more present in the Sinhalese community than it is within the Tamil community, I would say. And the Muslims are entirely defined by their religion, right? They're very much defined by their religion. And actually, Muslims themselves are not a monolith either. When I mean Muslims, I mostly mean the ethnic group that are called the Sri Lankan Moors, that are legally called the Sri Lankan Moors, who are Tamil-speaking Muslims. So again, we'll get to that we'll get to that later. That's a different discussion for later.
Okay. It's usually a repeat. The most dominant ethnicity that might want to inspire its people to do horrible things to whatever is defined as a minority are the ones who are usually the loudest about utilizing whatever makes us different to the other group, very often religion, as a tool for, again, unification against. While minorities tend to give less of a shit about whether somebody is this particular religion or that one, or if they're members of subsects of the particular religion, etc., etc. It's a cudgel, pretty much.
Indentured servants from southern India, brought by the British during colonial times to the areas surrounding the city of Kandy to work the tea plantations. Like the Elam Tamils, their spoken language is Tamil, although the dialect in which they speak is more similar to the Tamil you might hear in India. The Muslims of Sri Lanka are an ethnic group that live all over the island and are primarily defined by the religion that they profess, namely Islam. Historically, the home language of the Muslims was and continues to mostly be Tamil. Most Muslims live in the southwest of the country alongside the Sinhalese as a minority. However, there are cities in the eastern province with a predominantly Muslim population. This video will largely focus on the genocide that Elam Tamils and Malayaga Tamils experienced collectively, and I hope to dedicate separate videos to the struggles of the Muslims and Malayaga Tamils, as their struggles deserve to be brought to the spotlight. Sinhalese Buddhist nationalists bear many similarities to Zionists, religious, ethno-nationalist zealots that engage in a campaign of settler colonialism and...
Mobs in Sri Lanka burned 13 people alive, part of a week-long massacre that turbocharged simmering ethnic unrest.
Yeah, get the out of the country. This is Jewish country only. We don't need Muslims here.
We'll get to this in a second. Sinhalese Buddhist nationalists claim that they are indigenous and the first quote-unquote civilized people of Sri Lanka, citing the 1500-year-old text, the Mahavamsa, as their source of indigeneity. The Sinhalese, however, are actually descendants of people who originally came to the island from eastern India, from the modern states of Odisha and West Bengal. The original indigenous people of Sri Lanka are the Vedas. According to the Mahavamsa, the Veda are the offspring of the progenitor of the Sinhalese prince Vijaya and a demon named Kuveni. Soon after having children, however, Prince Vijaya banishes Kuveni and their children into the forest, thereby creating the indigenous Veda. The Sinhalese Buddhist nationalists cite their indigeneity to lay claim to the entire island of Sri Lanka, painting the Tamils as invaders to the island, despite the Tamils having been there for several thousand years. One of the stories extensively laid out in the Mahavamsa.
What's up with basically the ethnic group that came to a particular place the last, utilizing the, correct me if I'm wrong, but arguably the dumbest argument in service of their cause, for their cause. Like, why do you have to do the pitch that you're the oldest guys here when fucking everybody knows that you're not the oldest, like that you've been here the longest? Again, parallel to at least European Jewish Zionists.
So to be
It's
perfectly fair, they have.
Why not just ignore that point? Like, I would just ignore. Like, I would not touch on that if I was trying to push it. That's what I'm saying, because it's like so obviously and easy to see through. Yeah.
So the thing is that the thing that's a bit different between Palestine and Elam is that the Sinhalese have been on the island for at least 2,000 years or so.
Yeah.
So they've been on the island, right? So they have a long history on being on the island. But the thing is, their portion of the island was in the southwest. That's the difference. So whereas, the entire land of Palestine is the colonial project of Israel, right? They're colonizing the entire land of Palestine. The land that the Sinhalese nationalists, the Sinhalese Buddhist nationalists, the short form for Sinhalese Buddhist nationalists, by the way, is called Sinbuds, right? Sinbud, right? So it's the first.
There's nothing to do with Sinbad, like the old story. I think that's like from
not Sinbad.
Yeah. I was like, what the fuck? Yeah.
Sinbuds, yeah.
Sinbuds.
So Sinbuds are, so what I was trying to say is that they're basically claiming the north and eastern portions of the island, right? And that has always been Tamil majority, at least for the last few centuries or so. It's always been Tamil majority. But now they're basically just making up shit to basically say, hey, no, this is ours. Like, we used to have, and what they're doing is they're going into those particular places and they're saying, oh, well, actually, there's a broken piece of a Buddhist vihara, or there's some lost script here. So this land was actually ours, like some 3,000 years ago.
The parallels are wild. Yes. Thank you. There isn't a single original ethno-nationalist, I swear to God.
This is a story of King Dutugemunu fighting against the Tamil Chola
king. How the British played a role in it, and I'll explain even more because I'll explain why, because I didn't explain that in this video. I didn't have time to get into that.
Okay.
Yalalan, who had at that point seized power in the historic capital, Anuradhapura. When he starts lamenting the thousands of Tamils that he killed, the 8 Arhats, enlightened disciples of the Buddha, console him by telling him that he only killed Tamil unbelievers who are no better than beasts. They then go on to say, "Thou wilt bring glory to the doctrine of the Buddha in manifold ways. Therefore cast away care from thy heart, O ruler of men."
Wow.
Sinhalese Buddhist nationalism states that the island of Sri Lanka.
Okay, by the way, one other thing about this. So Yalalan, the Chola king, right? He is a figure that existed in 205 BC. 200 years before. He was born 200 years before. No, he reigned. Sorry, he started his rule in Elam in Sri Lanka 200 years before Jesus Christ was born. And just to give you an idea.
Yeah.
So these guys, these Sinhalese Buddhist nationalist Sinbuds, are fucking butthurt about shit that happened over 2,000 years ago. Yeah, just for the record, I want chat to understand that.
Oh, fuck me.
Imagine modern day Iraqis getting angry at Mongolia.
Yeah.
For Genghis Khan.
Literally.
But even more ridiculous because it's even further back. Like, Genghis Khan's invasion is closer to our time. The Genghis Khan's conquest is closer to our time than this shit is.
It's
than it is to this.
It's the English invading Italy for the Roman Empire trying to take the British island, pretty much. Like even older.
Even
than
older
that.
than
even
that.
older.
Even
than
older
that.
than that.
What?
It's over 1,000. No.
Yeah,
England, like Normans conquered England in like 1066. This happened 200 BC.
Wow. I
Dude,
mean,
we're
calling it a
about-
stretch
we're
would be a
talking about them
stretch.
being butthurt over BC, guys.
Yeah. Fuck.
Does promised land for his chosen people, the Sinhalese. The People's Tribunal of Sri Lanka mentions that major political figures throughout Sri Lanka likened themselves to previous Sinhalese figures like King Parakramabahu and Buddhist figures like Bodhisattvas.
Okay, pause.
In order
so
to
the guy on the left, actually no. So guy on the left
mentions that major
I don't mention it in this video. Sorry, not this guy, but the two guys. Yeah, the two guys in that picture.
Yeah.
So the guy on the left is D.S. Sainanaika. You'll see him later in this video. On the right is his son. The guy on the left has been described as the David Ben Gurion of Sri Lanka by a former Sri Lankan government employee, by a bureaucrat.
Crazy.
That's the first prime minister of Sri Lanka on the left, right? Back then it was called Ceylon in 1948, but and he described him positively, not even like as a negative. Not even as like a negative, like, oh my God, like, wait, what D.S. Sainanaika is bad. The guy that described him as the David Ben Gurion of Sri Lanka described him as, oh yeah, no, he's protecting the homeland.
Ah, okay.
he's like David Ben Gurion in that regard.
Is nation building, but in an incredibly beautiful, progressive way. Yeah.
Exactly.
Major political figures throughout Sri Lanka likened themselves to previous Sinhalese figures like King Parakramabahu and Buddhist figures like Bodhisattvas in order to rouse nationalist and anti-Tamil sentiments. One of the biggest proponents of Sinhalese Buddhist nationalism is Annagarika Dharmapala, whom I'd like to introduce with something he said about Sri Lanka's Muslims.
Can you say something about, because from the Western gaze, Buddhism is kind of, Orientalism plays a crazy fucking role in this. Is usually presented as, the chillest dudes to ever exist that just concentrate on finding enlightenment, live in relative isolation, and want nothing to do with, material concepts such as the state, governance, military, wealth, etc., etc. And that sort of stereotypical view and how it plays in a crazy contrasting way in this particular case, where it's to an extent utilized as a kind of identity to unify around in a militant way. Basically, the contrast between the Western perspective of what Buddhism is and militant Buddhism, if we can call it that.
So, I want to say one thing first. Buddhism is neither. Buddhism, just like every other religion, is completely neutral. It is not inherently good, and is not inherently bad either.
Absolutely.
Every religion, it all depends on the interpretation and the power structures within those particular societies. That's the biggest. That's the most important thing to analyze. You can't analyze any particular religion on its own. You can't do that. It's always dependent on the society that it's in, right? So in the West, it's viewed as this sort of peaceful, I guess, hippie, for lack of a better term, religion, because it plays as a contrast to Western Christianity, right? Which is a very puritanical in many senses. It's a very puritanical, very, in many cases, violent form of Christianity, right? And that's more due to the fact that Christianity has basically been entangled. Christianity in America, Christianity in Europe, it's been entangled with the ethnic identity.
Yes.
And the same thing is happening here, right? The Buddhism in Sri Lanka and also in Myanmar, by the way. So those are the two, like, in Myanmar, they've also successfully committed a genocide of Rohingya people as well, a majority Muslim population, right? And the reason for that mostly is because it's an ethnic division that has been superpowered, that has been supercharged by the religious component of it, right? It's the ethno-religious component of it that's been used as a form of it's been used as a tool of violence, basically.
Yes.
But if you look at Buddhism in India, on the other hand, right? Buddhism is actually, in many senses, a very progressive religion, because it's a very progressive thing, because it's an anti-caste. It's a sign of anti-caste activism, or it's an anti-caste vehicle, basically. And the most dominant form of Buddhism in India is because it was founded by basically the guy who wrote India's constitution, B.R. Ambedkar, right? So it's viewed as a vehicle of anti-caste politics, basically, in India. So Buddhism, just like every religion, depends entirely on where you're at, right? It depends entirely on where you're at. It doesn't you can't say that all Muslims, all Buddhists, all Christians, etc., believe the same thing. You can't say that.
Of course.
It's a way for, it's a vehicle to channel already existing politics through.
Very well put. Thank you.
The Mohammedan, an alien people by Shylockian method, became prosperous like the Jews. The Sinhalese sons of soils, whose ancestors for 2,358 years had shed rivers of blood to keep the country free from alien invaders, are in the eyes of the British only vagabonds. The alien South Indian Mohammedan comes to Ceylon, sees the neglected villager without any experience in trade, and the result is that the Mohammedan thrives and the son of the soil goes to the wall. Anagarika Dharmapala was the world's first modern global Buddhist missionary. He was one of the principal figures responsible for bringing Buddhism to the West. Back home in Sri Lanka, however, he's the godfather of Sinhalese Buddhist nationalism. This bright, beautiful island was made into a paradise by the Aryan Sinhalese before its destruction was brought about by the barbaric Vandals. Its people did not know irreligion. Christianity and polytheism are responsible for the vulgar practices of killing animals, stealing, prostitution, licentiousness, lying, and drunkenness. The ancient, historic, refined people under the diabolism of vicious paganism introduced by the...
I'm gonna let this quote finish, and then I want to chime in on one thing.
British administrators are now declining slowly away.
Okay, so basically the other thing I wanted to say is that if you're so you're probably wondering what the hell's going on? Like, why are they saying anti-Semitic shit about Muslims? Anti-Muslim sentiment, anti-Muslim bigotry / Islamophobia in Sri Lanka is not the kind of Islamophobia most people are used to. Because Muslims in Sri Lanka, generally speaking, do not get the terrorist label. They don't. In fact, they are actually considered they are considered to be the model minority. So they occupy a position in Sri Lankan society that is above, not necessarily above that of Tamils, but they don't get the same kind of hatred that Tamils get. And if you were to ask a Sri Lankan in Colombo what your idea of a terrorist is not going to be a Muslim dude. It's not going to be a Muslim dude at all. It's mostly going to be a tiger. It's going to mostly be a Tamil guy.
Understood.
So Islamophobia in Sri Lanka, it's a mindfuck for a lot of people outside of the region. But Islamophobia in Sri Lanka in particular is actually rebranded anti-Semitism. So the prevailing notion, especially in the Sinhalese-dominated portions of the island, is that Muslims run the banks, they run the economy. They are basically specifically leaving out. They're specifically leaving out Sinhalese from jobs. They're trying to sterilize the Sinhalese population by injecting by doing abortions or whatever. like very anti-Semitic stuff that
Yeah,
you're used
barrels
to.
are crazy. Yeah, so they're like the smart ones that are slowly seeping into our society, taking all the companies and all the money and all the banks, and that's how they're trying to fuck us. While from the Sinbad perspective, while the Tamils are the unhinged terrorists that will pick up a gun and stab you in the streets. That's the
Bingo.
Okay, thank you.
One thing to note here is that Anagarika is making a claim that vicious paganism, presumably Hinduism or Shaivism, was, quote, introduced by British administrators, an obviously false claim that is meant to portray Tamils as outsiders and invaders to the island. We could simply wrap up this section of the documentary with a bow and call it a day. However, there is a bit more to the story. The truth is that the Sinhala Buddhist nationalism that we understand today is actually not 2,000 years old, but 200 years old. It was wholesale cooked up by the British in order to help maintain their control of the subcontinent from Sri Lanka.
Divide et imperam, fucking the classics continue, fuck me.
So the thing is, actually, the whole idea of Sinhala Buddhist nationalism, it was not something.
Okay, never mind.
That
okay, a note on who Bhashana Abewardhana is, right? So Bhashana Abewardhana is basically the founder of Journalists for Democracy Sri Lanka, JDS, and you should give them a follow. I'll give you a link. You can spam it in your chat.
Please do.
He is one of the founders of JDS Lanka. And these guys, if you've ever watched Sri Lanka's Killing Fields, Sri Lanka's Killing Fields, his organization is responsible for getting, I mean, you'll see it in part 2, right? But his organization is actually responsible for getting the footage of the Sri Lankan soldiers executing Tamils that they captured in cold blood, right? So his organization was responsible for grabbing they were the ones that got the footage from
real journalism,
the Sri Lankan army.
Yeah.
So
nice.
This dude is incredibly vital. He's the one that managed to put a lot of this stuff together, and he is one of the few remaining Sinhalese ally. He's like one of the few remaining Sinhalese people that is actually supportive of a separate Elam, for a free Elam. He's one of the last remaining Sinhalese dudes. Because we actually just lost another guy, Viraj Mendes. He recently passed away. And there aren't that many Sinhalese people left that are like absolutely pro free Elam.
And I'm guessing
he's one of the last remaining people left.
I'm guessing Sinbad's paint him as a traitor, etc., all the classics.
Yeah, he had to leave the country.
Jesus.
For fear of his life, because especially in the early 2000s, the Sri Lankan government has not only, I mean, they've mostly assassinated Tamil journalists, right? But they've also famously assassinated Lasantha Vikramatunga, who was a Sinhalese journalist. They assassinated him in 2009. They assassinated him in 2009. They've also kidnapped a guy called Pragit Eknaligoda, who's another Sinhalese journalist who was investigating Sri Lanka's use of chemical weapons against the Tamils in the final years of the war. And he was disappeared for investigating that. And we have never heard from him since. He was disappeared in 2010. And we don't know where he is. He's very likely dead at this point, unfortunately.
So all the parties present in the current current government pretty much want to continue minimizing exposure to what the government had done in the past and continues to do. It's not something that, if I'm getting it right, it's not something that they're like, okay, yeah, we fucked up back then, we're sorry, let's continue with life. Because, as you said, there's literally no attempt at reconciliation at all. Hell, quite to the contrary. Anybody who wants to openly speak up about it and maybe share it with the world, by it, I mean what
so they had a lessons learned and
reconciliation. Yeah.
So they had a lessons learned. So the Rajapaksa administration, and Rajapaksa is basically, Mahinda Rajapaksa is the Benjamin Netanyahu of Sri Lanka, and you'll see why in like part 2. But Mahinda Rajapaksa and his government held a Lessons Learned and Reconciliation Commission, LLRC. And in that LLRC, they quote unquote found that all of the war crimes that happened during the war, none of them were the fault of the Sri Lankan government. None of them were the fault of the Sri Lankan army or of the Sri Lankan armed forces magically. They found that the Sri Lankan government was not liable for any of the war crimes that they committed.
Yeah.
All of the atrocities that were committed against civilians were all the fault of the LTTE. And they just moved on from there. That's it. That's basically said, yeah, we
and not like international
ourselves.
court for like try to extradite them, etc., etc.
No, nothing like that.
Nothing.
So the thing is, there have been several resolutions that have been brought up over the years to basically investigate war crimes, not even to hold Sri Lanka accountable, right? This is just to say, hey, we need to collect more evidence on what Sri Lanka has done. Sri Lanka obviously has denied them. Sri Lanka has obviously just said, no, fuck you, we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
The U.S., magically enough, they were the ones that actually supported this starting in 2009. And the reason is, even though much of this entire thing is the U.S.'s fault to begin with, right? The U.S. magically supported they turned basically when the heat was getting too hot.
Mm-hmm.
And they were basically saying like, oh, we can't be seen supporting this.
Yeah.
Right. Now, the times have changed. Obviously, the U.S. doesn't give a shit as long as it's Israel. They don't give a fuck who they support. But back in 2009, the Obama administration basically said, listen, we can't be seen supporting this. What the Sri Lankan government is doing is very horrific, right? So both the U.S. under Obama and UK under, what was his name? The white guy the white Tory guy, David Cameron.
Yeah.
David Cameron. The other reason for that is Mahinda Rajapaksa openly postured against, like, you're probably used to this. You have a lot of, being from the Balkans, you have a lot of basically right-wing figures in the Balkans and in South Asia that use the language of anti-imperialism to carry out fascism, right?
Absolutely.
You're probably used to that.
All the time,
right?
Yes.
So that's what Mahinda Rajapaksa was. And to that end, he openly supported China, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or he openly said like, oh, China's like, we love China, we love this. And he's also postured about supporting Palestine. Now, granted, he supports the PA,
Mm-hmm.
right? He supports the Palestinian Authority. He supports Fatah, right? So take that for what it's worth. So Mahinda Rajapaksa at least rhetorically positioned himself against the United States, which is why the U.S. was like, okay, we can't reason with this guy.
Yeah. It's not genocide. It's the slow distancing from pro-American policies. Okay.
Yeah, it's not the U.S. because a lot of after Rajapaksa gets replaced in 2015, the U.S. fucking shuts up about the entire thing.
Yeah. Oh, Lord.
Because Rajapaksa gets replaced by Maithripala Sirisena, who's a significantly more pro-West guy. So the U.S. and the U.K. basically said, hey, let Sri Lanka cook. Let's see what's going on here.
Yeah.
British actually...
And nowadays, you don't even hear nowadays, like even in the BBC, you don't even hear any mention of the war crimes. It's gone. It's thoroughly gone from anyone's memory.
Like exploited this or used it for their purposes or something like that, but actually they formulated it. They basically constructed it from the scratch, fusing the ethnic component with the religious component and make it as one identity, as Sinhala Buddhist identity. That was done in 19th century.
As a part of unifying the entirety of the island, the British needed to destroy the affiliations with old kingdoms that the Sinhalese once had, and they needed to make the local Sinhalese population identify with the new unitary state structure that they were imposing on the island.
And the thing is, but the native people, natives who lived in that territory, didn't see it as one country because they belonged to certain different kingdoms, So they were calling, in Sinhala language, for example, the people used to call Rata, which means country, to the kingdom they lived. So their Rata was not the entire country in the way that we understand it now. Their Rata was actually the kingdom that they lived in. So that mentality has to be.
But you switch it to the modern context and then you use it to say that the entire island was my country. Again, the parallels with other places around the world where ethno-nationalist groups use it the same fucking way. Classic, yeah.
So let me explain why.
As if nationalism
this is
existed before the 18th century. Sorry, yeah.
So I'm gonna explain why the British did this, because there's a perfect reason for why the British did this, and Bashna actually talks about it in one of his other lectures that he gave on the Tamil genocide, which I will share. I will share with you in the Discord. So the reason the British goes to this extent to basically construct this identity is because this is, so to understand what he's talking about, this is right around the start of the 1800s, right?
Yes.
So what's going on here is Sri Lanka is right next to, or the Ceylon was right next to India, and India was the British Empire's cash cow, right? And what I mean by India is, I mean India, what is now India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, right?
Is that why East India Company is that why they put it in the name? Sorry, I fucking.
What happened was the East India
I
Company
bummed that
took
joke,
over.
but yeah. Sorry, yeah.
No, so the East India Company was the first to actually take over this subcontinent, right? They actually took over quite literally through capitalism, right?
Yeah.
Quite literally using capitalism to
Quite literally the first international company.
Yeah, quite literally, yes. But what happened was around the turn of the 18th century, even Indians themselves don't know this, right? Because they don't know much about all of the country, especially South India. But some of the first rebellions that happened against the British happened in specifically Tamil Nadu, in what are called the Polygar Wars, right? And these were basically like tiny little kingdoms that existed in pockets of Tamil Nadu, what is now Tamil Nadu. So you had the Queen of Sivagangai, Velu Nachiyar, right? You have another guy from Madurai called Veerapandi, or I think it's like Pudukkottai or Madurai or something like that. You have a guy called Veerapandi Kettabomman, right? You have all these different kings whose armies are basically rebelling against the British. And now the British managed to squash it, but they presented enough of a threat to the British that the British feared, because the thing you have to understand is that the language that is spoken in Tamil Nadu is the same language that is spoken on the northeastern coast of Ceylon.
Okay, yeah.
It's the same language. So Tamils and Muslims both speak, like Tamils and Muslims in Elam also speak Tamil. So the British were actually concerned that the waves of rebellion, that the wind of rebellion would spread over to the Tamil-speaking portions of the island, and most
they would find a
crucially,
common
Trincomalee.
enemy in the invaders, and then get over their particular issues, right?
Bingo.
Yeah.
But more importantly, the reason, so Sri Lanka has a fundamentally different, or Ceylon has a fundamentally different relationship to the British than India did. Because yes, the British did atrocious things in Sri Lanka. They did. But at the same time, Sri Lanka was basically their port to control India. It was, Sri Lanka was vital to, Ceylon was vital to the British because they had easy access to ports that they could then control India from, especially Trincomalee, which is a deep sea harbor. One of the, it's one of the deepest natural harbors in the world. Trincomalee Harbor is, right? And funny enough, Trincomalee is a Tamil city. Trincomalee is a Tamil city, right? So the British were very concerned that the Tamil speakers of the island would then begin to rebel. So the British did everything they could to study the island and make sure that rebellion could never happen against them again. And the genocide we're seeing right now against the Tamils is actually 200 years of this counterinsurgency plan in action.
Wow.
It's 200. Everything that we are seeing right now is a direct consequence of the British.
And how did it, like, No, I know the answer to it. Like how didn't it come to a point when the British left that I'm not gonna say the domestic population because that was like back then, like you did not have actual information channels, but at least the leadership, how didn't they kind of realize, okay, they were basically doing divide and conquer on us. Now they're gone. So let's get the ideology of division out the door. But no, it was already there, and they were governing, utilizing it at that point as well. So yeah, it makes no sense. Yeah.
No. So the thing you have to understand is that the people. So I mean, there's some element of this even in partition and in the independence of India and Pakistan as well. But it's even more present in Ceylon's independence, in Sri Lanka's independence. And it's that the people that the British handed power off to were already like ruling elites.
Yeah, okay.
They come from very wealthy backgrounds. They come from landlord caste backgrounds. DS Senanayaka, what's his name? SWRD Bandaranaike. SWRD Bandaranaike we'll get to him in a second. He's a Catholic Sinhalese person that did not once that didn't even speak a lick of Sinhalese until later on in his life. He's one of the most elitist dudes you'll ever come across. But magically, once he starts getting into the politics business, he becomes a huge nationalist.
Yeah. Classic.
So it's the ruling class of Sri Lanka. It's the comprador class of Sri Lanka being mostly Sinhalese. And unlike India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, Sri Lanka never had a violent revolution against the British. They never did. They never had a violent revolution against the British to the same degree.
Yeah, they left, but their ideology did not leave because it was instilled in the domestic elites, who then continued to.
It wasn't just the ideology that was in. No, it wasn't that the domestic elites were necessarily ideological believers. They probably were to some degree, but they wanted to basically maintain their grip on power.
Yeah,
there's also that extent as well.
Yeah, and why why change something if it works, as they say. Yeah.
And the other thing is, Sri Lanka, basically, Ceylon has the same status as Canada, as like a Commonwealth realm, until 1972.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Much longer than India or
Pakistan.
Pakistan.
What the fuck? I didn't know that. It's crazy.
Yeah, until 1972. So from 1948 to 1972, Ceylon is basically in the same category as Canada. They still ultimately report to the crown.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now everything makes sense. Thank you very much. Very good answer. Thank you, by the way, for Struggle 4 for the fucking raid. Thank you. Welcome, Raiders. We are covering this beautiful documentary makers new documentary about the Tamil genocide. Please join us. Ask any question. And do give them a follow as well. And thank you for all the subs. I'm going to read out the subs after the interview ends. Let's continue watching the documentary. Thank you.
In order to make it, a natural kind of entity that people have
And thank you, Struggle. Also, all chatters that don't know Struggle, please go follow. Brilliant comrade. Hope you had a good stream.
Connection. So Sinhala Buddhist nationalism was actually constructed in order to connect the native population with the British-built state structure. So within the next 100 years from the 19th century, that was basically in the fields of historiography, which started with the discovering of Mahavansa, in the field of archaeology, and in the field of anthropology, physical anthropology. Basically, British constructed an identity, not simply about the identity of the native people who lived in that country, but they separated the Sinhala Buddhist people and made it as a kind of hybrid identity and presented it as kind of, they basically connected it to the state structure. So the Sinhala Buddhist identity became an integral part of the state structure, and people started thinking this unitary structure is something that belongs to us, the Sinhala Buddhist. whoever that, you know, who
This links really well with what we talked about at the beginning of the stream, of the linking of a particular identity as not a tool for unification, but for division that can be later also utilized, obviously, for military action, etc., etc. Yeah, but it's crazy that
Exactly.
in this case, like to an extent, the British colonialists did it, and it stayed over. It's like, the parallel is very different. So I'm not giving it a parallel, but it could be an interesting example. The Yugoslav wars are starting, and you need a reason for basically the same people to shoot at each other. And what we did, what, for example, the Serbs did is, and the Croats as well, were like, okay, the Bosnians are different to Croats and Serbs because they're Muslims, and for 5 centuries we were under Turkish Ottoman rule. That means that they're actually all Turkish. They're not converts, they're actually Turks. They're the leftover of the colonizer, so it's completely chill and valid to basically shoot them all in the head. Completely
Almost
ahistoric.
identical.
What?
Almost identical rhetoric.
There you
so
go.
the thing is, they'll say, so the Sinhalese Buddhist nationalists, Sinbuds, will say that Tamils they're one of two things. They're either the remainder of the Chola conquest of the island, or two, they're British agents because of the Malaga Tamils.
Wow.
It's the same. Like they'll say like, oh, this is completely valid. So they're basically trying to paint Tamils as the colonizers here.
Yeah, we're always
which
the
is
victims,
not
yeah.
true, not even remotely true.
Yeah.
whoever that are living in the country, living in the island, they are kind of, secondary. And actually, Anagagi Dharampala, even though he was, everybody knows that he's a kind of an open
Don't the
kind of
Tamils also
instigator.
get called bourgeois? So the reason that
Jesus,
the Tamils get
they're getting absolutely everything thrown at them. They're exceptionally violent terrorists. They are descendants both of the incredibly powerful and elitist imperialists and colonialists. At the same time, they are parasites on the country, and they live like rabid dogs. It's like everything.
They also
absolutely
get called
everything.
dog fuckers. That's the other thing.
Dog fuckers. Okay, what's the?
They also get called uncivilized, street shitters, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so they're both the bourgeois and the descendants of the ultra powerful imperialist, but they also don't know what civilization is, and they fuck kids. Yeah, they fuck dogs. Apologies.
Yeah. What Anne is talking about is that, this is another parallel between Tamils and Palestinians in that, Tamils basically live in a very agriculturally not so great area of the island. So the dry zones are on their side, right? On the Tamil majority side. And so you couldn't really do that much farming or cultivation in comparison to the highlands or the southwest. So a lot of Tamils entered government jobs under the British. They became educated, and they became they had like middle manager jobs under the British. So that's where that comes from. A lot of Tamils became English educated because the American missionaries, yes, American Christian missionaries had a role to play in this as well. They were actually denied from building convent schools in the South, the Sinhalese dominated portion. The British said, hey, you can build these schools in the North. Right. And so a lot of Tamils ended up becoming English educated in comparison to Sinhalese. Right. And they ended up taking government jobs. Right. Like not like super high government jobs, but like imagine like.
But enough for us to point at those government jobs and say that they are XYZ. Yeah,
it's just a way of like, they're just like clerks basically. Because if you look at the ruling class, it's overwhelmingly Sinhalese. So, but that's again another like, it's like when Israelis say like, oh, Palestinians are like, they're elitists because they speak perfect English or some shit like that.
What the? Yeah.
It's the same. It's the same rhetoric. It's the same exact rhetoric.
Yeah, and before the Nakba, in Palestine, more jobs were given to Muslims than any other religious minority, and that's what shows us that if the Palestinians were to become majority once again, they will make everybody else a second-class citizen, etc. etc. It's I know I've said it too many fucking times in today's stream, but the parallels, bro, the parallels.
Of anti-Tamil, anti-Muslim violence, and kind of hatred towards the non-Sinhala, non-Buddhist communities. But actually, he's a kind of an indicator of how successful the British project was actually. Because in his writings, when you go through his writings, where he clearly says, before reading Mahavansa, I never knew about the glorious past of the Sinhalese.
Oh God.
So he's talking about.
He's literally saying, but it's insane. He's like, I never knew about this thing that wasn't a thing until I read a thing that told me that that we are fucking awesome. So now I'm gonna completely believe this thing that says that we are fucking awesome and everybody else isn't, and I'm gonna make it a very big part of my identity. Like it's like I want to be a trud so fucking bad type of shit. God, dude.
So yeah, he's talking about Annagarika Dharmapala, who basically said very anti-Semitic stuff about Muslims, and actually his comments were right around the time that the first ethnic pogrom happened. The fun, I mean, I guess not so fun fact is that the first ethnic pogrom that happened on the island, at least the first major one, it wasn't against the Tamils actually. It was against the Muslims. Because the Sinhalese nationalists were like, well, you guys were, you guys are trying to steal our jobs. You guys are trying to ruin Sinhalese society by usurping all the markets and whatnot. Like you're a cabal or whatever. And it's not like the Sinhalese nationalists were ever nice to any of the minorities on the island. Like it's not like the Sinbuds were nice to any minorities. It's just that over the next few decades, the Tamils become the first in the firing line.
Yeah.
Right. They become the first in the firing line. They also there was a bunch of, so there's an ethnic group in India called the Malayalis, who are basically considered the brothers of, they're the cousins of us. Like Malayalis, you've heard of Kerala, the state run by the Communist Party of India, Marxist, right? So the ethnic group there are the Malayalis. There were a bunch of Malayalis in Colombo at the time that were taking several jobs. And they basically said, we need to get rid of the Malayalis because they called the Malayali women like whores, basically. That's what they said, right? And they said oh, these are low-class thieves, and we need to get rid of them. We need to get rid of these immigrants or whatever. So their hatred doesn't end at the Tamils. They hate everyone. They ultimately hate everyone, but the Tamils are the first in the firing line, basically.
Yeah, you gotta pick. Yeah. The hierarchy of genocide.
However, the irony of Annagarika's tirade against the British is that the very text that he was inspired by, the Mahavamsa, was relatively unknown to the Sinhalese people for centuries because it was written in the Pali language, a dead language that few on the island spoke. It was British colonial linguists that first discovered the Mahavamsa, then translated it into English, then into Sinhala. It was the translation of the Mahavamsa, along with the archaeological discoveries of a, quote, ancient Aryan civilization on the island, that laid the groundwork for the resurgence of Sinhalese Buddhist nationalism.
Mahavansa was, basically digged out from a place which was written in Pali, and it was digged out by
I'm going to say one thing about Aryan before I let this guy continue. And then once we do that, can you get to the start of Bhashana segment again?
Yes,
like
of course.
this segment that
Yes,
he's starting
yes.
again. So a lot of people don't understand where the term Aryan actually comes from. So Aryan is Arya. It comes from the Sanskrit word Arya, which means noble, right? Now, what happened was, when the British conquered South Asia, that is modern day Sri Lanka, occupied Elam, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, right? They were basically trying to streamline their basically wealth extraction of the subcontinent, right? And to that end, right, this is actually during the Bengal presidency in the Bengal East India Company period. They actually went into a lot of linguistics to actually better understand the people of the subcontinent so they could administer them better, so they could colonize them better. And there's a judge, that basically was sent from India to Bengal, to work as a judge there, right? And in his spare time, he actually did a lot of linguistics work. And this is the guy who founded the Royal Asiatic Society, right? He's the guy who originally founded the Royal Asiatic Society. And he was doing a lot of, or he's one of the guys that originally founded the Asiatic Society. It was Sir William Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And Sir William Jones basically did a lot of linguistics work, and he was reading a lot of Vedas. He was reading a lot of he was reading the Sanskrit works, right? Works written in Sanskrit. And what he discovered was Sanskrit and much of India's languages, especially the dominant North Indian languages, are actually distant cousins of Latin, Greek, Slavic languages, Persian. They're all related to one another.
Yeah.
So what he then hypothesized is that these groups of people all come from one group of people, right? We now call this group of people Indo-European speakers, right? But at the time, he used the word Aryan for that, right? He used the word
holy
Aryan.
shit! How much was extracted from that particular thesis in the coming centuries?
And then after that,
yeah.
then it went through several iterations. Then that word was bounced around Europe for quite a while. And then
all of a sudden we're
landed in the hands of
believing in
the
an underground city where civilization peaked, and then it got fucked up because they bred with barbarians. Yeah, yeah.
Bingo. So effectively, that's where the term Aryan comes from. It comes from linguistics, and it comes from the discovery that the dominant North Indian languages, as well as Sinhala, by the way, Sinhala is related to all those languages. The Sinhalese languages related to all of them. They all come from one race, basically. So that's where all of this comes from. So it was literally a way for the British to justify their entire colonization of the subcontinent, because the British then turned around and said, hey, we're not conquering you, we're not colonizing you, we're helping a brother nation out come to sentience, basically.
Yeah, we're reuniting the OG pure race. I mean, not pure race, a superior race, because we are more connected to than we believed up until this point. But then why don't you give your so-called equals right to self-governance? Of course you don't. Yeah,
exactly. And this is important because this gets contrasted with Tamil. Because Tamil's not an Indo-Aryan language. It's not an Indo-European language.
So Tamils do not come from ancient Atlantis. I'm sorry. No. I mean, you gotta take the bullet. I mean, come on,
exactly.
Like, what the fuck? Are you
so
doing
they don't
here,
come
man?
from Tamils are not considered the quote unquote superior race. So that's where the contrast comes in, right? So, oftentimes there are some Sinhalese people that will. There are some Sinhalese people that will try and claim that they're white.
Yeah, that's what I was going to go at. Yeah,
they'll try and claim that they're white, even though they basically look like us.
Yeah.
Right. If you look at Tamil and a Sinhalese in the face, you cannot tell them apart. They're basically they look exactly the same. But they'll say they're white, and that.
Wait, you muted yourself. You went mute, brother. We cannot hear you. Cannot hear you. Yeah, even on my screen, I got a little a mute thing. Maybe you pressed
back.
Welcome back. They didn't want to let you talk about against the superiority of the Sinbuds over
Raw got me
over you.
No,
yeah,
Raw got
over
me.
You petty non-Aryans.
Yeah, Raw got me. No, Raw is research and analysis wing. It's India's CIA, basically.
Oh. Okay.
No, so what I was trying to say is that a lot of anti-black, Tamils are on the receiving end of basically reintroduced anti-blackness in that sense because of this contrast.
Fascinating. I mean, I always make fun of Slavs trying to identify with Western European ideas of whiteness and being like, yo, the ones who defined the Western European idea of whiteness never considered you one of them. But it's it's extra crazy the more to the east you go to see basically the repeat of I'm actually a civilized white Chad, and you are not, even though your idea of the civilized white Chad would put you in a fucking camp in 2 seconds if you actually were 2 meters away from him and trying to look at his daughter or his wife in a particular way. Fucking shit, man. It's not, all I'm saying is it's extra pathetic. Obviously, it's super pathetic for you to be a racist, no matter what part of the world you come from. But to not understand why racism is fucking stupid when you are, like in the case of you guys, quite literally one of the most intense victims of Western imperialism is crazy. Like adopting the ideology of it pretty much invented of the people that kind of created the idea that to this day you are somehow inferior, and then utilizing it against someone else is a crazy kind of, I like to call it the bouncing of Orientalism. Like, sure, we might not be as civilized and white as the German, but at least we're not like these dirty, and then you point at someone who you deem as, less white than you, less civilized than you. Fucking
no. So they
shit.
do this double speak of they'll do this double speak of blaming the British for a lot of things,
but also
again,
feel like we also are the same as the
British. To be fair, the British empire sucked, right?
Mm-hmm.
To be perfectly fair, they sucked, but then they'll also use the same British, they'll use the same I've said this on my stream before, but the very people that yell about British imperialism very loudly, the right wingers that yell about it, they're unwittingly the biggest soldiers of British counterinsurgency in the subcontinent. The fascists of the subcontinent are unwittingly the West's the biggest soldiers of the West counterinsurgency.
They always are.
That laid the groundwork for the resurgence of Sinhalese Buddhist nationalism.
Mahavansa was, basically digged out from a place which was written in Pali, and it was digged out by a British colonial officer who was working under the British administration, and he did it accidentally because he was involved in some other kind of, trying to sort out a dispute between two temples, and where he accidentally found this book, which he claims that until I found this book, nobody seemed to have noticed this book, the importance of it, which connects India's history to Sri Lanka's history, or Ceylon's history, So the thing is, when they dig out Mahavansa and when they started looking at it, they found, for the colonial rulers, they found it's quite important as part of, to justify or to naturalize the newly constructed the Sinhala Buddhist identity,
This idea of Sinhalese being Aryans, and thus the rightful owners of the land, was further reinforced by the Nazis when Heinrich Himmler appointed a 5-person team to find the origins of the Aryan race. They originally sent the 5-person team to Colombo in Sri Lanka in order to study the Aryan people living in Sri Lanka, namely the Sinhalese. Using the Mahavamsa, Sinhalese Buddhist nationalists lay claim to all of Sri Lanka, similar to how Zionists used the expulsion of Jewish people from Judea and Samaria to lay claim to the area of all of modern-day Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. Sinhalese Buddhist nationalists within the Sri Lankan government since independence...
Like every single ethnicity on planet Earth has the idea of a great, so-called greater, and then insert name of ethnicity or country. And it is utilized by right-wing parties from Tokyo all the way to fucking LA. The differences between, insane right-wing colonial countries and the rest is that in fucking relatively normal places, again, this fucking using liberal terminology here, but still, this is a niche thing believed by fucking insane whack jobs, or at the best only spoken in like closed circles of nationalist friends. When it becomes fucked up is when it quite literally gets utilized by the governing party or the state or the system as an ideology towards which one needs to kind of end goal towards which a nation or a people need to work towards. And that is perfectly exemplified, for example, by Israel, and in the case of our conversation today, by Sinbuds as well. What I'm trying to, the reason I'm bringing this up is that it's not like a hyper original thing, There's Chinese that have an idea of a greater China. There's Germans with ideas of greater fucking, ancient Roman Empire bullshit. Holy Roman Empire bullshit. There's Serbs with those thoughts. There's Croats with those thoughts. There's probably fucking Brazilians that, I don't know, want to go and shoot Argentinians. I don't know about the niche shit there. It becomes absolutely insane when the governance structure defines that as the main belief system of the entire people, and that's when you need to get kind of worried. And it's insane that we can see countries like Israel utilize it as basically the crux of their vision of the direction in which they want to go, and the rest of the world basically saying, oh no, that makes sense for them. Well, it doesn't make sense for anyone else. You can't do the greater state. Nobody can do it, but Israel is allowed to do it because, I don't know, magic, right?
Yeah, the only reason the Sri Lankan government hasn't tried to attack Tamil Nadu is literally because Tamil Nadu is a part of India. And they'd literally get their shit pushed in. Like, if there's one country more than Sri Lanka that cares about its territorial integrity in the subcontinent, it's fucking India.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's only one country that gives Sri Lanka a run for its money, in terms of caring about territorial integrity. That's India. But like Sinhalese nationalists have also claimed Tamil Nadu as part of their glorious Polonnaruwa kingdom or whatever.
Yeah, you can always find it.
Since in 1948, have specifically engaged in.
This doesn't really exist in Latam. I don't know if now you're gonna kill me. I don't know if Mexico counts at Latam, but like even though I would support it, but Mexico saying, yo, Texas, Greater Mexico includes Texas, could be something like this. Even though the context there is very different because all of those are colonial states, blah blah blah, very new ones, etc. etc. But I pretty much will stand on the hill that you can find ideas of herder. We need to reestablish our what we deem as the real extent to which our territory can expand to in almost any country in the world.
State-sponsored settler colonialism against the Tamils. These schemes are specifically designed to displace the Tamil population and slowly shift the demographics such that the Northeast will become majority Sinhalese, and the Tamil-speaking populations will become minorities in their own native land. Sinhalese settlers were provided with preferential privileged access to land, which was routinely denied to the Tamil-speaking population of the area. But remember that one day the whole country will look up to you. The final battle for the Sinhala, our people, will be fought in the plains of Padavia. You are men and women who will carry this island's destiny on your shoulders. Those who are attempting to divide this country will have to reckon with you. The country may forget you for a few years, but one day, very soon, they will look up to you as the last bastion of the Sinhala. The Sri Lankan rate of population growth was one of the highest in Asia in the 19th century. The population boom created a Sinhalese landlord class, which in turn also created a Sinhalese landless peasant class. This was also at a time when there was scarcity of land in the Sinhalese-dominated south. This drive to colonize the northeast portions of the island, which was where all the dry lands were, was a way for the land-owning Sinhalese bourgeois, predominantly coming from the Govigama caste, and the British colonial government to appeal to the landless Sinhalese peasants hailing
Make
from the
the dry
highlands of
land
Kandy.
bloom, am I right?
Yeah. And what I hate about videos this well made and interviewing you while I'm watching it is that I pretty much fucked up and I asked you a lot of questions earlier that do end up being addressed by the documentary. But I intentionally did not want to watch it so it's raw, so I can ask questions spontaneously, but then that fucks it up because I'm basically spoiling the video for chat by making you answer it before you do. But thank you for being such a good sport and not always replying with, dude, it's going to be addressed in the video. Dude, it's going to be addressed in the video, which you could have done.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's like the reason I'm like trying to, I know you have a hard stop at 1, so I'm trying to like not take as many questions at the moment so you can watch the documentary as much as you can.
Oh, absolutely. And every single chatter will get their fucking ass spanked if they do not go and afterwards watch the whole documentary and then go into our guest's show when he streams again and ask him additional questions as well.
The primary form of Sinhalese settler colonization was and continues to be carried out through government-sponsored irrigation projects. The Sri Lankan state used these irrigation schemes as an excuse to settle the landless Sinhalese peasants on Tamil, Muslim, and Veda land. This Sinhalese landlord class that many refer to is actually the Sinhalese Govigama caste. The first colonization scheme was enacted in the 1940s, right around the time of independence, under D.S. Senanayake. The scheme targeted the Galoya Valley in the island southeast, where the largest ethnic group were the Muslims.
For chat, independence from whom? In the 1940s, the independence of Sri Lanka, so the chat knows. Who did Sri Lanka become independent from?
Oh, I mean, UK.
Yeah, there we go. Just so they know.
And the second largest ethnic group were the island's Tamils. The Galoya project was the first large-scale project on the island wherein a dam in the southeastern region, in what was then the Badikalo district in the northeast, was to be constructed. The government would intentionally misrepresent areas of the Badikalo district as uninhabited as an excuse to settle Sinhala peasant workers.
Oh, of course. It's always uninhabited.
At least tens of thousands of Sinhalese workers were settled in the east between 1948 and 1957. And many of those Sinhalese peasant workers were armed by the government with the intention of chasing out the local Tamils that lived in the district.
Okay, that was going to be the question, but it immediately got addressed. Because I was like, okay, like moving your citizenry around doesn't necessarily mean like you're fucking colonizing or whatever. But when you give them guns and motivate them to actually push out the natives, that's when the story gets very different. Okay.
District. During the process of this colonization, an area in the southern province of the Badikalo district that was wholly undeveloped during the British colonial era would be fully transformed into a bustling town to house the people that were working on the Galoya Dam. This town was named Ampara. Over time, what happened as a result of this project was that due to the huge population increase in Sinhalese settlers, the Sinhalese actually ended up becoming the largest minority in the southern half of Badikalo district, outright displacing the Tamils and making the Tamils the third largest group. In 1961, nearly 15 years after...
Oh, that quickly, dude. That's super fast. The displacing as the largest group. Like, why? Like crazy. That's, again, subjective. Like, lots of kids and stuff. What was the... Because that's 20 years for you to outpace the other ethnic group is... It's a disgusting term to use for this, but it's impressive.
Chat, I know. Just to address something in my chat. Yeah, I know. My chat can't hear the video. I know you guys can't hear the video. You're gonna have to watch it on Yugo's side. I think Yugo is eventually gonna. I mean, I don't know what your plan is if you're gonna raid into my chat.
Yeah, of course.
If you're, we'll watch the video on my chat on my side after that. Is that good, chat? I'm very well aware that it's muted on my end of the stream. We were trying to figure out how to get this working. So if you want to watch the thing with audio, go watch it on Yugo's stream.
There we go. It's a connected stream, so I think it gives like views to both channels. So it doesn't really matter, I think, on which one you watch. But
Yeah.
what matters is clicking the fucking follow button on my bro here, okay? I just moved back to this.
Over time, what happened as a result of this project was that Due Town was named Ampara. Over time, what happened as a result of this project was that due to the huge population increase in Sinhalese settlers, the Sinhalese actually ended up becoming the largest minority in the southern half of Badikalo district, outright displacing the Tamils and making the Tamils the third largest group.
Okay. So they displaced the Tamils, not the majority, which in this case were the Muslims. I misinterpreted that. Okay.
In 1960,
Still, for 16 to do all of that in 16 years is wild.
Nearly 15 years after independence, the Sri Lankan government carved a new district out of Badikalo. This new district was given the name Ampara, with the capital of the district being Ampara, the town that was built to house the Gul Oya Dam construction workers. According to the 2012 census, the largest group in Ampara district continues to be Muslim, while the capital of Ampara district, Ampara town, is 99% Sinhalese.
Damn.
In 1948, the same year he started the Gul Oya project and the same year Sri Lanka got independence, D.S. Senanayake started a series of irrigation.
I was just saying, magically the capital of Ampara district is 99% single. How did that happen?
I have no idea. Dude, you were just out-Aryaned, man. Just fucking deal with it.
Projects in the southern part of the eastern province's Trincomalee district. Trincomalee district was historically majority Tamil while having a sizable Muslim population. It was also home to a notable indigenous coastal Veda population. The first of these irrigation projects was the Kandalai colonization scheme, which involved a tank to irrigate the paddy fields. 40,000 of the now 86,000 Sinhalese living in Kandalai, which was about half the Sinhalese population, were a direct result of the Kandalai colonization project. In 1951, the Alai irrigation scheme was enacted. The scheme involved the construction of an anacut through the Varagal River. Along with this irrigation scheme came the swallowing of ancient Tamil towns as Sinhalese settlers were relocated here. Kallar was named Somapura, Neelapalai was named Neelapola, part of Punagar was named...
And if anybody, I know nobody's writing that in chat because I don't have fucking reactionaries, but if anybody's saying, yo, but this massive infrastructure project needed people to work on it, etc., that's why. Dude, okay, but there was already a domestic population that you could have given literally tens of thousands of jobs to do these particular things. When you're bringing in what you previously very openly say are my people to the place of the not my people and quite literally colonize the area and then give them jobs so that they can support themselves while living in the area under the excuse of industrialization or, irrigation in this case, etc., you are pretty much putting all your cards in the open that this is about industrialization second and colonization first. Because if it was about industrialization first, again, you will just use the people that are already there. You'll be like, yo, you want to work on this thing? Jobs, pretty nice. Am I correct in this assessment, right?
Yeah, okay, first off, no, I'm not from Sri Lanka. I'm ethnically Tamil, but I'm not from Sri Lanka. So I'm from the same ethnic group as these guys that are being, that are the victims of genocide, but we speak the same language, right?
Yes. Sorry, I'm gonna fuck with this the entire time.
So I am not. Yes, I am not Aryan. The second, the other thing is yes, as you have basically the correct analysis of this. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
They use excuses like, oh, we're trying to industrialize this area and we just need to develop this area through infrastructure projects. I mean, they're bringing Sinhalese people to work on these projects.
Yep.
In Mahindapura,
they're bringing Sinhalese people to work on these projects, but India loves Tamils, right? No, they do not like Tamils. They don't like us either.
Fuck.
Tirumangalai was renamed Sri Mangalagama, and Aripu became Seranuwara, the location of the new Sarawilla Divisional Secretariat that would be cleaved from the Tamil and Muslim majority Mudur division. In Neelapalai's case, the government specifically settled, quote, rough elements from nearby Polonnaruwa in the north-central province. During the Black July pogroms in 1983, the remaining Tamils in Neelapalai and other towns would be chased out by the Sinhalese settlers. Most of these colonies allocated under the Ally Irrigation Scheme now fall under the Sarawilla Divisional Secretariat, which according to the 2012 census is 69% Sinhalese. A result of both the Galoya Irrigation Scheme and the later Mahawali development program started in the 60s was that much of the indigenous Veda population that was living in the eastern province were forcibly evicted by both Sinhalese settlers and the government and relocated onto reservations. The remaining Veda people in the eastern province were then assimilated into the Tamil ethnic group later on. To this day, there are only a total of 10,000 Veda on the entire island, relegated to these reservations as tourist attractions as they fight to retain their identity against the pressure of assimilation into the Sinhalese. Another result of these irrigation schemes and the Sinhalese settlers antagonizing and chasing out the Tamil population was that the Tamils, who were once the majority of Trincomalee district in 1921, are now the second largest group, the largest minority, following the Muslims. In 1956, Sinhalese Nationalist Prime Minister SWRD Bandaranaike and his Sri Lanka Freedom Party passed the Official Language Act, commonly known as the Sinhala Only Act. This law replaced English with Sinhala,
by the way,
as the official language, but specifically excluded Tamil, the other major language spoken on the
and it excluded it. Okay, this is to say it for the 100th fucking time this stream. Fucking classic. Yeah. You don't just other the others. You define them constitutionally as not existing, because people cannot be a people without a language, at least according to classic definitions of what a people is. Fucking what the fuck. Yeah. And I'm guessing there were reactions to this, right?
Oh yeah, we're gonna see.
The island. To underline how drastically different Tamil and Sinhala are as languages, Tamil is as close to Sinhala as Japanese is to English. They are totally different languages from totally different language families. The passage of the Sinhala Only Act effectively prevented 30% of the population whose native language is Tamil from getting and keeping government jobs, which are one of the main viable sources of income.
Fuck.
Also meant that government social safety nets were made unavailable to the Tamil speakers of the island. This led to multiple protests from Tamil political parties, which were promptly met with government-sanctioned violence, leading to the deaths of at least 150 Tamils. Much of this violence happened in the Galoya colonies, where Sinhalese settlers massacred roughly 100 Tamils. One of the fallouts of the Sinhala Only Act was that Sinhalese Buddhist nationalists were emboldened to enforce the Sinhala language upon the Tamil speakers, namely the Elam Tamils, the Malayaga Tamils, and Muslims. To this end, Sinhalese nationalists started printing the word Shri in the Sinhala script on license plates, symbolizing the desire to Sinhalize the name of what was then called Ceylon into Sri Lanka. In response, the anti-Shri campaign began on the Tamil side, smearing the word Shri on license plates with tar. This was another act of mobilization on the Tamil side, which would be met with violence. On May 24th, 1958, violence broke out in Polonar.
This is something that to this day happens between North Macedonians and Bulgarians, and Macedonians and Bulgarians, and Serbs and Kosovars. Tiny, like the license plate thing. I'm losing my mind.
District near the eastern province. Tamils, as well as any Sinhala person who attempted to protect the Tamils, were attacked, raped, and murdered en masse by a Sinhalese mob. In fact, Sinhalese who were suspected of hiding Tamils had, quote, their brains strewn about. The next day, a Sinhalese mob attacked a sugarcane plantation full of Tamil workers and their families. When the mob attacked, the workers and their families tried to hide in the bushes. In response, the mob set the entire field on fire. As the Tamils were forced out of the burning sugarcane field, the mob murdered the men, women, and children using homemade swords and grass-cutting knives and machetes. In a nearby town, mobs ripped open the belly of an 8-month pregnant woman and let her bleed to death. Necklacing is a form of extrajudicial summary execution and torture, wherein a rubber tire is drenched with gasoline, forced onto the victim's chest and arms, and is lit on fire, thereby burning the victim alive. This tactic, which has been used all around the world, was first attested in the 1958 anti-Tamil pogroms used by Sinhalese nationalist mobs against Tamil civilians. In the wake of the Sinhala Only Act and the resulting mobilization of Tamil political activists, state-backed Sinhalese Buddhist nationalists became more and more emboldened to engage in terrorism and ethnic pogroms against the Elam Tamils living in the northeast, the Malayaga Tamils living in the highlands, and the Tamils living in Colombo. In 1970,
you exclude the people from civil participation, those people react, then you use their reaction as a call for violence against them, and you paint yourself as the good guy because, hey, they protested. Fucking shit.
Yeah, so I just want to show you something. Just a quick article, a quick little article. It's a Wikipedia article. But there's a reason I'm showing you this.
Please do.
Right? Pull this up on screen for a second. It's a Wikipedia article called Sexual Violence Against Tamils in Sri Lanka. And I want you to pull it up. And I just want chat to see how big it is.
Wait, what?
This is a non-exhaustive list of recorded incidents of sexual violence that the Sri Lankan army, the Sinhalese nationalist mobs, militias, and even including the Indian peacekeeping forces. India also got in on some of this. These are recorded instances of rape against Tamil women, men, and children. This is a non-exhaustive list, for the record.
I know it means nothing, but I'm sorry, bro. Jesus fucking.
I appreciate it.
the wife of former Prime Minister SWRD Bandaranaike, Sirima Bandaranaike, became the world's first woman prime minister.
You are the first woman prime minister in the world.
She soon followed in her husband's footsteps by enacting a number of measures designed to legally make Tamils second-class citizens, such as forcing Tamil civil servants to
First quasi-fascist girl boss. Wow.
learn the Sinhala language in order to be promoted, requiring Tamils to negotiate in the Sinhalese language with Sinhalese civil servants stationed in Tamil-dominated areas.
Forcing Tamil civil servants to learn Sinhala in order to be promoted, requiring Tamils to negotiate in that language with the civil servants of that particular ethnicity stationed in there. Yeah, making it completely impossible to do pretty much anything in life without knowing the language, which is ridiculously different than even if it wasn't different, it's a fucked up thing to do. But it's borderline, and correct me if I'm wrong, not impossible, extremely hard to learn, even if you wanted to learn it, because it's as different as Japanese is to English. Just to repeat context.
There's a lot of loanwords that entered. There's a lot of shared loanwords from Sanskrit in both languages, and then there's some words that entered the Sinhala language because of the contact with Tamil. So there are some loanwords from Tamil in the Sinhala language. But overall, the languages are fairly different from one another. And so you have to have like a decent amount of exposure to the language, which some Tamils in the Northeast do, but they cannot hold. Like, remember, like you're having like you have to remember you're talking about reading legal documents, and negotiating in court. And while there are Tamils with a decent, like, basic conversational grasp of the Sinhala language, going to court and arguing your case, or talking with lawyers, or talking with civil servants in Sinhala is a very different thing than just saying, "Hi, how are you? I'd like coffee."
Absolutely.
It's a very different thing. So most Tamils, no Tamils at all, have basically what is an academic grasp of the Sinhala language. Most Tamils do not have that. Even like well-educated Tamils, like former Human Rights Commissioner Ambika Satgunanathan, I don't think she speaks Sinhala at that level. She understands Sinhala quite a bit because she grew up in Colombo, and so she was exposed to a lot of the Sinhala language. But most of the interviews I could find of her, she doesn't speak Sinhala. She speaks either in Tamil because she has a very good grasp of the Tamil language, or she speaks in English. So it's a very different language to learn. It's very hard if you're not used to it.
Absolutely.
So, and they're demanding that you negotiate basically legal documents in a totally different language.
Areas, making the court Sinhala only, including in the Tamil speaker-dominated Northeast, banning the import of publications promoting Tamil culture coming from the neighboring state of Tamil Nadu in India, and continuing the government-backed Sinhalese ethnic settlements in the Tamil and Muslim-dominated Northeast that her predecessors had been engaging in since the 1950s. One of the long-lasting projects spearheaded by the world's first woman prime minister was the Mahaweli Development Program, which designated certain areas of the island as prime targets for development, some of which were in the Tamil-dominated Northeast. The official state-provided reason behind the project was that the Sri Lankan government wanted to develop the land, and in particular, the irrigation mechanisms of the dry zones of the island, where the dry zones comprise the Tamil and Muslim-dominated eastern and northern provinces. This is one of the main legal mechanisms that the government would use to settle Sinhalese, including the predominantly Sinhalese army and police, on Tamil and Muslim land. Sirima also oversaw the full independence of Sri Lanka from the British, as well as the renaming of the island from Ceylon to Sri Lanka, and a new constitution that her government drafted. With the constitution came Article 6, with a notable provision. The Republic of Sri Lanka shall give to Buddhism the foremost place, and accordingly it shall be the duty of the state to protect and foster.
So we had language, now we're moving to religious denomination as factor of belonging.
Foster Buddhism, while assuring to all religions the rights granted by Section 18. The Sri Lankan Constitution makes it abundantly clear that Buddhism is the foremost religion on the island. In 1976, the Tamil United Liberation Front, aka TULF, led by SJV Chelvanayagam, signed the Vattukotte Resolution, calling for the creation of an independent country named Tamil Elam, comprising the Tamil-speaking Northeast. This resolution was signed after decades of apartheid-like policies enacted by Sinhalese nationalist politicians. Sirima's party, former Prime Minister SWRD's Sri Lanka Freedom Party, would be blown out in the 1977 Sri Lankan parliamentary elections, and the election would see the restoration of power to DS Senanayaka's neoliberal UNP under a new leader, J.R. Jayawardena, a distant cousin of the Senanayaka family. The UNP government initiated a process of economic liberalization.
They're also fucking running it as a fucking monarchy.
Making the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka the first country in South Asia to liberalize its economy. The UNP, as part of this economic liberalization plan, unveiled an ambitious development plan to irrigate and further colonize the Northeast, an acceleration to his predecessor's Mahaweli program. The minister put in charge of the Mahaweli project was a man named Gamini Dissanayake. In order to implement this irrigation plan and colonization scheme, the Jayawardena administration worked with foreign consultants such as the United States Agency for International Development, USAID.
I'm guessing when you throw this at them, they say you're full of bullshit. We were just trying to what we said earlier, irrigate, industrialize, quote unquote civilize. Why are you calling this a colonial project? I'm guessing that's usually the comeback.
So the first comeback immediately is that we're not like Israelis because we've been on the island for 3,000 years. Mm-hmm. So that's a parallel that's immediately thrown out of the gate. We're not like the Sinhalese are not like Israelis in that we've actually been on the island, whereas Palestine or the state of Israel is literally based off of people coming in to the island since the 1930s, right? 1920s and 1930s. But that's the first immediate excuse. But the first thing, the first counter to that argument is, first off, not every Sinhalese person is they come from a family that's 2,000 years old. Not every single one of them are. If you actually, that's impossible. Because the funny thing is, we just talked about SWRD Bandaranaike, right? Solomon West Ridgeway DS Bandaranaike, right? His ancestor, guess what? If you go back far enough, was a Tamil priest by the name of Neela Perumal. So one of the biggest Sinhalese Buddhist nationalists ancestors, his forefathers, one of his forefathers was Tamil.
Shit writes itself. Shit writes itself.
And the other thing is, if you actually look at the history of a lot of Sinhalese castes, right, especially the artisan caste, they're not all, 2,000, 3,000 years old. They're like South Indians that came to the island some 300 years ago, and then later became Sinhalese, and now are claiming this 3,000-year-long history or whatever. So they're they're from all over South India. That's why Sinhalese have the most in common outside of the Tamils. They have the most in common with other South Indians. They're culturally more similar to South Indians than they are to, whatever, Bengalis or North Indians or whatever. So it's the same. So that's the first excuse that they'll throw out. We've been here for 3,000 years, unlike, you guys. And then, yes, like you said, they will throw out, no, we're just trying to develop the dry regions, and so this was necessary. In fact, there is I guess an Australian or New Zealand YouTuber that was, I think, the only other person to do something like this, covering Sri Lanka's history, right? Sri Lankan Elam's history. And he straight up said, yeah, I mean, when you look at it, it seems really bad. It seems like it is colonization, but this colonization was kind of necessary to develop those regions. So can you really say it's a bad thing?
Okay. Yes, you can, because there was a population there that could have. I'm not going to repeat my argument from earlier. Yeah, it's yeah.
So it's literally making the desert bloom argument. Yes.
Yeah, literally. God. And I think with the deserts blooming, this is a perfect moment, even though I would love to pick your brain for the next 5 hours. I will push my chat over to you so that they pick your brain. I'm going to thank you so much for joining. I think this is a decent cutoff point. We're at minute 28:13. If you want to continue it over there. Please tell the chat where they can find you. And once again, thank you so much for coming on. I'm not going to call this as having been a blast, because it's been fucking horrible. Because of the things that we've talked about, but talking to you genuinely has been a blast, and I would love to do this more times, especially learning about this part of the world that I admit to knowing absolutely nothing about. Tell chat where they can find you, except on Twitch, which fucking click the fucking link that they know. If you have any other platforms, etc., throw the link in our chat, and I will spam it in the chat.
You can find me on Twitch. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on my name is the same everywhere. You can find my name at youtube.com/@I you can find me on Twitter. My Twitter is, again, you can find me at Blue Sky as well, although I don't post on Blue Sky as much. You can find me there. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me. My name is going to be everywhere. It's going to be the exact same thing everywhere.
When you Google it, all the social media platforms are gonna pop up. The main thing is,
exactly.
Yeah, go follow. The main thing is go follow, please, on Twitch, not for any other reason, not because he's smart, not because he made this brilliant documentary, but because he is not an Aryan, and we support all our fellow non-Aryans here in chat. Do you understand? I never say what my ethnicity is to chat because of fucking Balkan infighting, but the majority of my family is from a Balkan ethnicity that has, by Hitler himself, specifically been defined as inherently non-Aryan and inherently, possessing atavist attributes. They called us we didn't fully develop into, basically the argument was we didn't fully develop into Homo sapien. We're more Neanderthal than Homo sapien, therefore we cannot be even colonized. We must be exterminated. Anyways, thank you. I'm gonna close this thing now because I don't think that the raid works otherwise, and I'm gonna just say bye to chat for 3 minutes, and then all of you, I insist on going over on his stream and continuing this conversation. Thank you very much, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Hugo.
See you soon. Thank you.
See you soon, man. As always. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
and now we are alone. That was brilliant. Let me immediately start the raid over to my new friend. Thank you very much for joining us today. I would have continued it, but today I have an insane schedule. Like, I spent like 6 hours working on the fucking first thought shit, and now I gotta do some other stuff. Is it gonna work? Yes, it's going to work. Please go over to his stream and continue the conversation that we've had today. For those of you who are new, who joined me from errands, please click the follow button. It costs absolutely nothing. Thank you to all the subscribers. I will read out a thank you to all the subscribers on the next stream. I'm very, very grateful. Without you guys, none of this would be possible, quite literally. Join my Discord channel if you want to meet fellow progressives, communists, anarchists, and so on. It's an unhinged place, but I think it is a wholesome place. Follow me on all the fucking socials, etc., etc., and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you to our guests, and thank you for everybody who has come, but a very, 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 very special thank you to Toasty Android, my lovely mod, without whom like this collaboration would not have been possible. I genuinely appreciate it, and I genuinely appreciate you facilitating it, as the Americans would say. Now go, learn more, stay informed, and yeah, don't be Aryan. Cheers, chat. I love you. Mwah.